Chapter 24-25. Chapter 24-25. Chapter 24-25. Overestimating himself. Peel off my skin and pull out my tendons? Ningyu glanced at Heisho, raised the corner of his mouth, and said faintly, with your cultivation at the peak of the early stage of Immortal King, I'm afraid it's hard to peel off my skin and pull out my tendons. Humph. Arrogant. Heisho snorted coldly, then immediately stepped on the ground and rushed straight at Ningyu. No matter what. He was also a sky demon at the peak of the early stage of Immortal King. At the same cultivation level, it was almost impossible for a human powerhouse to be his opponent. However, Ningyu actually looked down on him so much, how could he tolerate it? Apart from anger, Heisho gathered all the energy in his body on his fist, and punched at Ningyu's head. Heisho's idea was very simple. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit, not to mention dealing with Ningyu. After all, Ningyu could be valued by Sky Demon, which was enough to show that he had some skills. Bang! In a split second, Ningyu and Heisho's fists collided. The two collided. Ningyu stood on the spot without moving. He slowed down the Black Fiend and flew back several meters, only stopping when his body hit the ground. Poochie. Blood spurted out from his mouth. Heisho's face became extremely pale, without any blood. Obviously. With this blow, Heisho was defeated, and he was defeated extremely miserably. Swish. Swish. Seeing Heisho defeated, Baisho and the blue-clothed Sky Demon flew to Heisho's side at the same time. Among them, the blue-clothed Sky Demon was in charge of protection, while Baisho was in charge of healing Heisho. Catcher. Baisho took out an elixir from his arms and threw it into Heisho's mouth. At the same time, he put his hands on Heisho's back, and a steady stream of energy entered Heisho's body through his palms. Who? With the effect of the energy and elixir, Heisho's face gradually turned red. Not long after, Heisho completely recovered to his peak state. I want you to die. After recovering to his peak state, Heisho suddenly got up, stared at Ningyu with a cold face, and said viciously, no one in the world can save you. Really? Ningyu shrugged and said, trash will always be trash. Even if he recovers to his peak state, he will still be trash. You. The Black Fiend was so angry that his nose became crooked. He thought that with Baisho and blue-clothed Heavenly Demon around, Ningyu would not dare to be so arrogant. Who would have thought? Not only did Ningyu continue to be arrogant, but he was even more unscrupulous than before. Let's attack together. No matter what, we must chop him into pieces. Heisho roared. His figure flashed and he was about to rush out. Pa. However, before Heisho rushed out, Baisho slapped him on the shoulder and said in a deep voice, you are not Ningyu's opponent. Let me do it. You. Heisho's expression was slightly ugly. He and Ningyu had only exchanged one move. How did Baisho see that he was not Ningyu's opponent? Was it because he was at a disadvantage? Don't be impulsive. Blue-clothed Heavenly Demon also said, Divine Fire Emperor's son, Heaven Annihilation Emperor's son, God-slaying madman, tall Heavenly Demon, short Heavenly Demon, and even white-clothed Heavenly Demon, who is only a little weaker than me, were all killed by Ningyu. You mean? Ningyu has killed 6 Heavenly Demons comparable to the peak early Immortal King in a row? Heisho was finally moved. He thought that the blow just now was due to his carelessness. But now it seemed that the situation was not like that at all. If Ningyu really killed 6 Heavenly Demons whose strength seemed to be at the peak early Immortal King, then Baisho and blue-clothed Heavenly Demons' dissuasion was not unreasonable. Perhaps. He was really not Ningyu's opponent. However, he was definitely not willing to admit that he was not Ningyu's opponent. His eyes turned. Heisho said coldly, Kid, God has the virtue of cherishing life. I will give you a chance to live now. Come here, kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, otherwise, I will let you know why flowers are so red. I'm sorry. Ningyu curled his lips and said, you should know why flowers are so red. I will also give you a chance to live, surrender to me, otherwise, I will send you to hell. Originally, Ningyu did not intend to let Heisho and Baisho live. After all, it was many times more difficult to control Heavenly Demons of the early Immortal King than to kill them. However, Thinking of the battlefield in North City, Ningyu had to choose to control He Sho and the others. There was no other reason. After controlling He Sho and Bai Sho, he could take them back to the battlefield in North City and join forces with Venerable of the South and the others to kill Scar Heavenly Demon and the others. Ha ha ha. He Sho seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He raised his head and laughed wildly, then said with a hideous face, "There is a way to heaven, but you don't go, there is no door to hell, but you break in. Next year, today will be your death anniversary." Who? As soon as He Sho's words fell, Yang Yuming, who was behind Ningyu, slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. After a period of recovery, Yang Yuming had already recovered to his peak state. "Thank you." He first thanked Ningyu, then Yang Yuming turned to look at the blue-robed heavenly demon and said, "Leave this blue-robed weakest heavenly demon to me." "Are you sure?" Ningyu was puzzled. Although the blue-robed heavenly demon was weak, it was relatively speaking. In terms of pure strength, the blue-robed heavenly demon was much stronger than the white-robed heavenly demon. "I want to capture and control him alive, not kill him," Ningyu reminded. If it was to kill him, Yang Yuming might really have a way. But controlling him was very difficult for Yang Yuming. "Don't worry, I can control him." Yang Yuming took a deep breath and his expression became extremely solemn. It was not Yang Yuming's character to let Ningyu take action alone. Even if controlling the blue-robed heavenly demon would consume all his trump cards, he did not care. "Be careful." Ningyu knew Yang Yuming's intention, and it was useless to say anything. So, he just patted Yang Yuming's shoulder to show encouragement. "You guys are courting death." Black Fiend was still enduring, but the blue-robed heavenly demon couldn't stand it anymore. With a loud shout, he charged directly at Yang Yuming. "Let's go too." White Fiend didn't stop Yang Yuming, but he stepped on the ground and rushed towards Ningyu with Black Fiend. In terms of kinship alone, the relationship between the blue-robed heavenly demon and White Fiend was obviously not as good as that of Black Fiend. So, if Black Fiend wanted to fight against Ningyu, White Fiend would stop him. If the blue-robed heavenly demon wanted to fight against Yang Yuming, White Fiend wouldn't stop him. Overestimating yourself. Looking at the Black and White Fiend duo who kept rushing towards him, Ningyu raised the corner of his mouth. After advancing to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King, his strength had soared by more than a little. He could even kill an Immortal King intermediate stage heavenly demon, let alone the Black and White Fiend duo, these two peak early stage Immortal King heavenly demons. Boom. Boom. Ningyu was decisive and ruthless. He threw out 2 punches in a row, hitting the fists of the Black and White Fiend duo. 2 crisp sounds sounded in succession. Then. Chapter 24-26. Chapter 24-26. Chapter 24-26 defeated. Swoosh. Swoosh. After one move, the black-white double ghosts could not care less about the tearing pain coming from their fists and hurriedly retreated. They were at an absolute disadvantage in this attack. How is this possible? They hurriedly used their energy to repair their broken fists. The black-white double ghosts had a look of disbelief in their eyes. One had to know. When the two of them joined forces, they could fight against an ordinary mid-stage Immortal King expert. What kind of freak was Ningyu? Why did Ningyu still have the upper hand when the two of them joined forces? Nothing is impossible. You have to accept your fate. Ningyu rubbed his swollen fists and rushed out again, throwing 2 punches at the black-white double ghosts' heads. Ningyu's target was the black-white double ghosts' fists. And this time, Ningyu's target was the black-white double ghosts' heads. However, the black-white double ghosts could not just stand there and let Ningyu attack them. They looked at each other and immediately retreated to the sides. At this moment, they had already realized how powerful Ningyu was. But in their opinion, as long as they moved separately, Ningyu would definitely not be able to focus on attacking. Kill. The black demon shouted and took out a mid-stage Immortal King flying sword and slashed at Ningyu. Die. The white demon also took out a mid-stage Immortal King flying sword and slashed at Ningyu's head. Although the two of them were Immortal King heavenly fiends, the level of their Dharma treasures was not too strong. Compared to the Divine Flame Emperor and the Heaven-Destroying Emperor, they were very shabby. After all, the Divine Flame Emperor and the Heaven-Destroying Emperor were the top few peerless geniuses among the heavenly fiends. Their status among the heavenly fiends was much higher than theirs. Even the mid-stage immortal King Flying Sword that they had took a lot of effort to obtain. Ding, ding. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. White Demon and Black Demon's flying swords slashed on Ningyu, but they couldn't even cut the armor worn by Ningyu. Now, Ningyu was wearing a peak-stage Immortal King armor. How could a mere intermediate-stage Immortal King flying sword cut it? Not good. The black-white double ghosts were not fools. Since their first attack had failed, they instantly determined that Ningyu might be wearing a peak-stage Celestial King tier armor. There was no time to think. The two of them immediately retreated. Where are you going? However, how could Ningyu let them go? The energy in his body gathered at his ankles, and Ningyu chased after him. In just a few seconds, Ningyu arrived in front of Heisho and punched out, hitting Heisho's chest. Catcher! The huge force broke several ribs in Heisho's chest, and his aura dropped to the freezing point on the spot. After defeating Heisho, Ningyu turned his head and rushed to Baisho. Catcher! There was no difference in the result. Baisho lasted a few seconds longer than Heisho, but he was defeated by Ningyu in the end. Go in. After defeating black-white double ghosts, Ningyu separated two wisps of soul force and entered their hearts. Boom! The extra soul force in their hearts made black-white double ghosts instantly dumbfounded. No matter how stupid they knew that they were controlled by Ningyu. As long as Ningyu triggered the soul force in their hearts, he could easily destroy their heart. And if their hearts were destroyed, they would end up in a miserable state. Thinking of this, black-white double ghosts' faces were ashen, and they looked very ugly. Bang! Just as Ningyu controlled black-white double ghosts, Yang Yuming defeated the blue-robed heavenly demon. Phew! After defeating the blue-gray heavenly demon, Yang Yuming's face became extremely pale, and he let out a heavy breath. To be honest, in order to defeat the blue-robed heavenly demon, Yang Yuming had used all his strength. In the end, he lived up to expectations and defeated the blue-robed heavenly demon. At the same time, after defeating the blue-robed heavenly demon, Yang Yuming's mental state had fallen to rock bottom, and he could no longer control the blue-robed heavenly demon. Swish! Yang Yuming could not control the blue-robed heavenly demon, but Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He immediately dashed out, came to the blue-robed heavenly demon, and a wisp of soul force entered its heart. It's okay. After doing all this, Ningyu's tense nerves finally relaxed a little. Now, the blue-robed heavenly demon, black-white double ghosts, were all under his control. Next, he only needed to let them recover to their peak state, and then he could bring them back to North City to join the battle. Take it. You have 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, if anyone doesn't recover to their peak state, don't blame me for being ruthless. Ningyu threw a few energy stones to black-white double ghosts and said in a deep voice. After taking the energy stones, black-white double ghosts and their faces were black. Ningyu took their energy stones and gave them the energy stones, and even confidently told them to recover to their peak state within 3 minutes. This was too much. This was really too much. However, no matter how indignant they were, black-white double ghosts and they did not dare to resist at all. Because they knew very well. As long as Ningyu willed it, they would die immediately. In the face of their lives, they chose to compromise. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 3 minutes had passed. Ningyu looked over and saw that black-white double ghosts had recovered to their peak state. As for the blue-gray heavenly demon, he had only recovered 90%. Die. Ningyu's face turned cold and he bellowed in a low voice. Boom. Accompanied by Ningyu's low voice. The blue-robed heavenly demon's body expanded rapidly and finally exploded. Hiss. Seeing this, the black-white double ghosts sucked in a breath of cold air. So brutal. They had thought that Ningyu was just saying it. Who would have thought that Ningyu would really kill the blue-robed heavenly demon? Killing the chicken to warn the monkeys? Was Ningyu putting on a show for them? No matter what, If Ningyu dared to kill the blue-robed heavenly demon, he dared to kill them. If they were not obedient, they would probably end up like the blue-robed heavenly demon. Let's go to North City. After killing the blue-robed heavenly demon, Ningyu waved his hand and headed straight for North City. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Behind him, Yang Yuming and black-white double ghosts hurriedly followed. At the same time, North City. Midair. At this moment, the void above North City had already been divided into two battlefields. One was Tai Muqiang and the others fighting against the scar-faced heavenly demon and the other was Xiao Duanya fighting against Venerable Devilblood. Judging from the situation of the battle, Xiao Duanya and Venerable Devilblood were somewhat evenly matched. However, Tai Muqiang and the Venerable of the West were at a disadvantage when they teamed up. Ha ha ha, Venerable of the South, since you dared to betray us heavenly demons, you should be prepared to be killed. The scar-faced heavenly demon threw his head back and laughed maniacally. He looked at the Venerable of the South and said, I'll give you a chance to live now. Come over, surrender to me, and be my slave. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll spare your life. Humph. The Venerable of the South snorted coldly and continued to attack, forcing back a heavenly demon in front of him. 3 against 6, and a powerful heavenly demon like the scar-faced heavenly demon, one could imagine how much pressure the Venerable of the South and the others were under. Chapter 24-27. Chapter 24-27. Chapter 24-27. Another one. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Scar-faced demon saw that Southern Venerable not only did not submit to him, but instead continued to attack. His face turned cold with anger. Shua. His figure flashed. Scar-faced demon instantly appeared in front of Southern Venerable. His right hand clenched into a fist, and a fist brought with it a violent Yuan Qi gale, fiercely punching towards Southern Venerable's chest. At the critical moment, Southern Venerable hurriedly put his hands in front of him. Crack. Although the Venerable of the South had managed to block Scar Demon's fatal blow, his arms were completely severed as a result. Bang! Bang! Seeing this, Tai Muqiang and Western Venerable hurriedly forced back the demon in front of them, and turned to launch a powerful attack at Scar-faced demon. Count yourself lucky. Seeing Tai Muqiang and Western Venerable attacking him, Scar-faced demon secretly cursed. He immediately gave up on Southern Venerable, and turned to fight with Tai Muqiang and the rest. Scar-faced demon was not stupid. Both Tai Muqiang and Western Venerable were extremely powerful. In a one-on-one fight, he might not have the upper hand. Only the Venerable of the South was the weakest. He left the Venerable of the South to one of the Scythians while he led the remaining 4 Scythians to fight the Venerable of the West and Tai Muqiang. Rumble. The aftermath of the battle constantly spread in all directions. Fortunately, North City's protective formation was activated, blocking the aftermath. Otherwise, after such a long battle, West City would have long been reduced to ashes. We can't go on like this. Looking up at Xiao Duanya, who was fighting with Devilblood Venerable, Western Venerable gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, Tai Muqiang, help me hold them back. I will go help Xiao Duanya. Don't court death. Tai Muqiang scolded. There was almost no possibility of them getting involved in a fight between intermediate immortal king experts. Even if it was just the aftermath, it was difficult for them to resist. We have to go. If we delay, we will definitely die. The Western Venerable revealed a determined expression. Who did not want to live? Unfortunately, Western Venerable knew. If there were no changes, according to this trend, all of them would die. He had to go help Xiao Duanya to have a chance of survival. As long as they could defeat Venerable Devilblood, the remaining scar-faced heavenly demon and the others would be lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Stop them for me. The Western Venerable was not an indecisive person. Once he made a decision, it was very difficult for others to change it. Damn it. Cursing inwardly, Tai Muqiang had no choice but to forcibly stop Scar Demon and the others. Shio. The Western Venerable Lord's figure flashed as he charged towards Devilblood Venerable at an extremely terrifying speed. Catcher. In the process of rushing forward, the Western Venerable took out a pill and popped it into his mouth. The pill melted in his mouth and flowed down his throat into his stomach. Boom! All of a sudden, a terrifying aura emanated from the Western Reverend's body. At this moment, the Western Supremacist's aura had already soared to the peak of the early stage of the Celestial King realm. He was only a thin line away from the true intermediate stage of the Celestial King realm. Once that window paper was pierced, the Western Supremacist's aura would soar to the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm. Bang! Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. Following the deep groan, the Western Supremacist's aura finally broke through his limit and reached the intermediate Immortal King realm. Die, Devil Blood Venerable. As his aura soared to the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm, the Western Venerable roared as he charged towards Devil Blood Venerable. Trash. However, the Western Venerable had just taken a few steps when the void in front of him suddenly split open. A heavenly demon dressed in black appeared. Intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm. Feeling the aura emanating from the heavenly demon, even though the Western Venerable had soared to the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm after consuming the pill, he could not help but gasp. His intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm and the heavenly demon's intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm were two completely different levels. Bang! The heavenly demon did not waste his breath on the Western Venerable. He threw a punch that landed squarely on the Western Venerable Lord's chest. The huge force caused the Western Venerable to fly backward and crash heavily onto the ground. He only stopped when a huge crater appeared on the ground. Demonic Overlord, you're too late. In mid-air, Devil Blood Venerable forced Xiao Duanya back with one move. He looked coldly at the heavenly demon and said in a deep voice, according to the agreement, you should have arrived here 10 minutes ago. Hee, don't be anxious. Demonic Overlord smiled faintly and said, didn't I want to find the token to open the Immortal Lyceum? Then did you find it? Devil Blood Venerable said coldly. Shaking his head, Demonic Overlord said, I captured a few higher-ups of Broken Cliff City and found out that the token is with Xiao Duanya. Then what are you standing there for? Hurry up and join hands with me to take down Xiao Duanya. We can't afford to be late. Devil Blood Venerable said fiercely, other than our entrance to the Immortal Lyceum, the other 108 entrances to the Immortal Lyceum are all being attacked by heavenly demon experts. The Battle Emperor of our war zone has said that the first 50 must enter the Immortal Lyceum. Otherwise, they will be punished. Hearing this, Demonic Overlord finally stopped smiling mischievously. In the Immortal Lyceum, there were a total of 108 entrances like Broken Cliff City. 108 entrances corresponded to 108 large domains. Every large domain had battle emperors among the heavenly demons. As usual, those battle emperors were all resting and would not easily interfere with the battle between the heavenly demons and humans. But for some reason, recently, the battle emperors of the 108 large domains suddenly joined hands and started attacking the Immortal Lyceum. They wanted to open 108 entrances at the same time. It had to be said. This idea was indeed crazy. While the Immortal Lyceum had yet to react, the 108 large domains suddenly attacked. The success rate was rather high. Has Lord Battle Emperor come? Demonic Overlord asked solemnly. Lord Battle Emperor is being held back by the experts of the Immortal Lyceum. He can't get away for a while. Demonic Blood Venerable said, but with Lord Battle Emperor holding him back, the experts of the Immortal Lyceum will not come to kill us. Very good. Demonic Overlord's heart calmed down slightly. The heavenly demons of the 108 large domains had joined hands to attack the entrance to the Immortal Lyceum. The Immortal Lyceum must have already sensed it. They were not afraid that Lord Battle Emperor would not appear. They were afraid that the experts of the Immortal Lyceum would rush over. Now, the Battle Emperor was holding back the experts of the Immortal Lyceum, giving them precious time. You and I will join hands to kill Xiao Duanya and snatch his token. Demonic Overlord was not an indecisive person. He made a prompt decision and said coldly, as for the other nobodies, Scar. Here. Scar took a step forward. Kill the Western Venerable and the rest, then massacre the entire city. Kill all the martial artists in the 4 great cities and Broken Cliff City. Leave no one alive. Demonic Overlord said coldly. No problem. Scar Heavenly Demon had wanted to do this for a long time. It was just that he had not defeated Tai Muqiang and the rest. Now that the Western Venerable was heavily injured by Demonic Overlord, Tai Muqiang and Southern Venerable alone would not be able to withstand his attack. As expected. Chapter 24-28. Chapter 24-28. Chapter 24-28. Careless. Swish. Scar-faced Demon was not an indecisive person. He made a prompt decision and charged at Tai Muqiang. Damn it! Tai Muqiang, who was dealing with 5 peak early-stage Immortal King Celestial Demons, couldn't help but curse when he saw Scar-faced Demon charging at him. Turning his head to look at Western Venerable, who was lying on the ground, Tai Muqiang's expression became extremely grave. He couldn't count on Western Venerable anymore. In the current situation, he had to face the strongest Scar-faced Demon alone, leaving Southern Venerable to deal with the remaining 5 peak early-stage Immortal King Celestial Demons. After all, his strength could contend with Scar-faced Demon, while Southern Venerable was much weaker than him. Try not to fight them head-on, Tai Muqiang growled. Instead of retreating, he advanced and fought with Scar-faced Demon. Rumble. Both Scar-faced Demon and Tai Muqiang were decisive existences among early-stage Immortal King Celestial Kings. The aftermath of their fight was extremely terrifying. Swish. 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 On this side, Tai Muqiang and Scar-faced Demon launched a desperate attack. On the other side, the 5 early-stage Immortal King Celestial Demons arrived in front of Southern Venerable at the same time. Block. It was a critical moment. Southern Venerable waved his hands and punched out. Crack. Crack. Unfortunately, although Southern Venerable tried his best, he still couldn't withstand the attacks of the 5 demons. 5 fists landed on Southern Venerable's chest in a row. In a split second, several of Southern Venerable's ribs were broken. Poochie. Blood spurted out of his mouth. Southern Venerable's already weak aura became even weaker. It could be seen. He was already on the verge of death. Tai Muqiang, I'm leaving first. Southern Venerable raised his head and yelled. Then, his body began to swell. Obviously, Southern Venerable was prepared to die. He wanted to self-destruct to severely injure the 5 early-stage Immortal King Celestial Demons. Oh no, retreat. Celestial Demons weren't stupid. When they saw that Southern Venerable was about to self-destruct, they immediately wrapped their energy around their ankles and retreated. Swish. As Southern Venerable's body swelled to a certain limit and was about to self-destruct, a shadow suddenly sped over from afar and landed in front of him. Pa. The figure reached out his right hand and gently patted the Southern Venerable's shoulder. Thereafter, the Venerable of the South's swollen body was like a deflated balloon as it gradually shriveled up. Who? The Venerable One of the South was utterly shocked by the sudden change. He was ready to sacrifice himself. Who would have thought? Someone actually came to help and stopped his body from exploding. I don't care who you are. In any case, if you dare to go against us heavenly demons, no one in this world, apart from the Venerable One of the South, the other 5 heavenly demons shouted in a deep voice. Noisy. The figure said calmly, then tore open the void and entered. Not good. Seeing the other party enter the void, the expressions of the 5 Scythians changed drastically. They hurriedly used their trump cards in an attempt to defend themselves. Catcher. However, the other party quickly appeared in front of them and threw out 5 consecutive punches. After 5 punches, the 5 sky demons fell to the ground, while the other party landed steadily. Ningyu. When the cultivator landed, the Southern Venerable finally got a clear look at the other party's face. It was none other than Ningyu. The Southern Venerable was a little puzzled. He clearly knew that the scar-faced heavenly demon had sent 6 early-stage Immortal King Realm heavenly demons to chase after Ningyu. Could it be that all 6 heavenly demons were defeated by Ningyu? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. After all 6 heavenly demons were early-stage Immortal Kings. It was almost impossible for Ningyu to shake them off. Swish. 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 At this moment, 3 figures flew over from afar and soon landed in front of Ningyu. Ningyu, run. Seeing two of the figures, the Southern Venerable couldn't help shouting, "I'll stop them for you. There's no need for that." Ningyu waved his hand, signaling the Southern Venerable to calm down. Then, Ningyu pointed at the scar-faced heavenly demon who was fighting with Tai Muqiang and instructed, "White demon, your mission is to kill Scar. Black demon, your mission is to kill the remaining 5 heavenly demons." Yes. How would the black and white demons dare to disobey Ningyu? Their lives were still controlled by Ningyu. If Ningyu wanted them to live, they could only live. If he wanted them to die, they would definitely die. His figure flashed. Black demon rushed towards the 5 heavenly demons who were severely injured by Ningyu, while white demon rushed towards the scar-faced heavenly demon. Gulp. The Southern Venerable swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face filled with disbelief. He originally thought that Ningyu's strength was already strong enough, but now it seemed that he had underestimated Ningyu. That was because controlling heavenly demons was much more difficult than killing them. The fact that Ningyu could control the black and white demons was enough to prove his strength. How powerful were the black and white demons? The Southern Venerable knew better than anyone else. One-on-one, the black and white demons could withstand 100 moves from Tai Muqiang. Now that white demon went to help Tai Muqiang, the result could almost be predicted. Poochie. As expected. With the addition of white demon, the battlefield became one-sided. The scar-faced heavenly demon only lasted for a dozen seconds before he was defeated by the combined forces of Tai Muqiang and white demon. Puff 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 puff. The scar-faced heavenly demon had just been defeated. On the other side, the 5 early-stage immortal king heavenly demons were also unable to escape, and were killed by black demon and Yang Yumming. Yang Yumming, I'll leave this side to you. I'll go help Duanya City Lord. Ningyu did not bother with the rest of the trivial matters. He leaped up, and instantly joined the battlefield in the void. Xiao Duanya was fighting 1 against 2, and was almost at the end of his rope. Originally, when Xiao Duanya exchanged blows with Venerable Devil Blood, although he could not defeat him, maintaining the current situation was not too much of a problem. However, with the addition of Venerable Devil Tyrant, Xiao Duanya was almost completely suppressed. If this situation continued to progress, at most a few minutes, Xiao Duanya would be killed. "Why are you here?" When Xiao Duanya saw Ningyu rushing towards him, he was first stunned, and then shouted, "You are not their match, hurry up and scram." "Ha ha ha, since you're here, don't leave." Venerable Devil Tyrant raised his head and laughed wildly. Then, he casually threw out a ray of cold light, intending to kill Ningyu. Because from the Venerable Devil Tyrant's point of view, Ningyu only had the cultivation of a 5th-stage half-step immortal king. No matter how strong he was, how strong could he be? One had to know. Even a ray of cold light that he casually threw out had extremely strong power. An ordinary 5th-stage half-step immortal king would not be able to withstand it at all. Crack. But what kind of person was Ningyu? He took out the red devil sword and slashed the cold light thrown out by Venerable Devil Tyrant into 2. At the same time, he injected the energy in his body into the red devil sword and slashed out a ray of sword light, attacking Venerable Devil Tyrant. Good lad, you have some ability. Chapter 24-29. Chapter 24-29. Chapter 24-29. Not a match be your slave? That's just right. Take another strike from me. Hearing the Supreme Devil Tyrant's words, Ningyu waved his wrist again and slashed out another sword light. Whoosh! The sword light tore through the void, and together with the first sword light, it flew towards the Supreme Devil Tyrant. Insignificant skill. The Venerable Devil Tyrant obviously did not place the 2 sword lights in his eyes. He flicked his fingers and shot out 2 rays of cold light, intending to destroy the sword rays unleashed by Ningyu. However, the Supreme Devil Tyrant had obviously underestimated Ningyu's strength. Catcher! Catcher! 2 crisp sounds rang out. Ningyu's sword light didn't shatter. Instead, his cold light was cut into 2 halves. Swoosh! After destroying the cold light, the 2 sword lights once again rushed out, arriving in front of him in the blink of an eye. Interesting. This time, the Venerable Devil Tyrant was finally moved. He finally started to think highly of Ningyu. He grabbed at the void with his right hand. In an instant, the space in front of the sword light split open and engulfed the sword light. So strong. On the other side, the Venerable of the South and Tai Muqiang were shocked when they saw that Ningyu could actually block the Venerable Devil Tyrant's attack. They thought that if Ningyu went over, it would be no different from sending himself to his death. But now, it seemed that they were wrong, and they were ridiculously wrong. Perhaps, Ningyu could really help Xiao Duanya. Leave now. However, Xiao Duanya's thoughts were a little different from the Venerable One of the South and the rest. The Venerable of the South and the rest might not know how much strength the Venerable Devil Tyrant had used just now, but he was very clear about it. 10%. The cold light that the Devil Tyrant Respect used to deal with Ningyu was only equivalent to 10% of its strength at its peak. For Ningyu to be able to block 10% of the Supreme Devil Tyrant's attack was nothing. Most importantly, he could tell from the Supreme Devil Tyrant's expression that the Supreme Devil Tyrant was extremely angry. Actually, it made sense. A mid-stage Immortal King stage Heavenly Devil's attack was actually unable to defeat a 5th stage half-step Immortal King. If the heavenly demons of the other regions found out, how would he be able to establish himself? Therefore, next, the Supreme Devil Tyrant would use all his strength to kill Ningyu. You have completely infuriated me. Xiao Duanya's guess was right. The Supreme Devil Tyrant looked at Ningyu with a cold expression and said fiercely, I've decided that this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. His voice fell. Venerable Devil Tyrant rushed out at an extremely terrifying speed. Not good. Seeing the Supreme Devil Tyrant rush towards Ningyu, Xiao Duanya's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly made a move, wanting to block this fatal blow for Ningyu. He, your opponent is me. However, how could the Devil Blood Venerable just watch as Xiao Duanya helped Ningyu? His figure shot out explosively, and he launched a powerful attack at Xiao Duanya. Damn it! Helpless, Xiao Duanya could only curse in his heart, and turned to fight with the Devil Blood Venerable. Be careful. Not far from the battlefield. The Venerable of the South and Tai Muqiang clenched their fists tightly, and their expressions became somewhat sinister. They wanted to help Ningyu, but they didn't know where they stood. They had just experienced a great battle, and they were not in their peak condition. If they were to fight with the intermediate Immortal King Supreme Devil Tyrant at this time, there would only be one outcome, and that was to die a horrible death. Don't worry, Ningyu, that brat, has a tough life. Yang Yuming was not too worried about Ningyu's safety. The Venerable of the South and Tai Muqiang did not know how powerful Ningyu was, but he was very clear. Even the powerful black and white dual swords could not last more than a few seconds in the hands of Ningyu. In other words, even if Ningyu's strength had not reached the intermediate Immortal King, it was not much weaker. If Ningyu were to fight with the Supreme Devil Tyrant, even if he could not win, he would definitely not be defeated so quickly. Rumble. The facts proved. Yang Yuming saw it more clearly. Ningyu and the Supreme Devil Tyrant quickly clashed. All kinds of spells, battle techniques, and energy interweaved together. 20%, 30%, 40%. As time passed, the power that the Supreme Devil Tyrant displayed became stronger and stronger. 80%. Along with the violent roar of the Supreme Devil Tyrant, he directly increased his strength to 80%. The reason why the Supreme Devil Tyrant did not display his full strength was because he was afraid of Xiao Duanya. Think about it. If he used his full strength, even if he defeated Ningyu, it would be very difficult for him to have any powerful battle strength. Although the Supreme Devil Blood was strong, it was almost impossible for him to kill Xiao Duanya in a short period of time. You want to kill me with such little strength? Looks like you're thinking too much. Ningyu's judgment was very accurate. The strength of the Supreme Devil Tyrant's punch was at most equivalent to an expert who had just entered the intermediate Immortal King realm. Before advancing to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King realm, Ningyu would probably be able to block this punch even if he used all his strength, let alone now. His right hand clenched into a fist. Ningyu directly put away the red devil sword and chose to face the Supreme Devil Tyrant head-on. This time, you're going to die. The Supreme Devil Tyrant coldly snorted. Just as his fist was about to come into contact with Ningyu's fist, He suddenly exerted force, increasing his strength from 80% to 90%. Crack! In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the Supreme Devil Tyrant's fist collided with Ningyu's fist. The two collided. Ningyu and the Supreme Devil Tyrant retreated a few steps at the same time. Ha ha ha. The Supreme Devil Tyrant raised his head and laughed wildly. His eyes stared at Ningyu's right hand and said coldly, "Against people like you, I don't even need to use my full strength to easily defeat you." Is that so? The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up. He shook his right hand forcefully and said indifferently, "If you don't mind, you can look at your fist and see if it's a little different from before. Don't talk nonsense with me here." The Supreme Devil Tyrant shouted in a deep voice. Crack. However, just as the Venerable Devil Tyrant was halfway through his words, he abruptly stopped. Because he discovered that the bones of his right hand had actually cracked. Moreover, the cracking speed was getting faster and faster. It was so fast that before he had time to treat it, his entire right hand was completely broken. Bang! His right hand fell to the ground. The Supreme Devil Tyrant was stunned. He was fighting with a 5th stage half-step Immortal King, and he even used 90% of his strength. In the end, not only did he not win, but his right hand was chopped off. You dare to be distracted while fighting with me? That's not good. Ningyu took advantage of the moment when the Supreme Devil Tyrant was distracted and suddenly rushed out. His fist brought with it a violent energy gale, fiercely attacking the Supreme Devil Tyrant's head. Damn it! The fist constantly enlarged in the Supreme Devil Tyrant's eyes, causing the Supreme Devil Tyrant to curse. Although he cursed, the Supreme Devil Tyrant did not dare to be careless. Because he discovered that the power of Ningyu's fist was extremely strong. If he did not use his full strength, it was almost impossible for him to block it. However, Ningyu would not foolishly exchange blows with the Supreme Devil Tyrant. When his fist was about to come into contact with the Supreme Devil Tyrant's fist, he suddenly changed his direction and punched the Supreme Devil Tyrant's heart. Bang! Chapter 2430. Leave one alive. Whoosh. Ningyu did not choose to stop after his first move succeeded. He stomped on the ground and chased after her. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. Paragon Devil Tyrant was a peerless heavenly devil at the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm. His strength was extremely powerful. Once he found an opportunity, it was very possible for him to recover to his peak state in a short period of time. In the distant battlefield, Xiao Duanya was already showing signs of weakness. Ningyu knew what he had to do. If he still did not go and help Xiao Duanya, then Xiao Duanya's defeat was basically inevitable. Damn it! Seeing Ningyu sticking to him like a piece of candy, the Supreme Devil Tyrant cursed out loud. Since you won't let me go, then don't blame me for being impolite. Venerable Devil Tyrant's eyes flashed with a cold glint. He immediately took out a golden talisman from his bosom and threw it towards North City. Not good. As soon as the golden talisman appeared, Yang Yuming's expression changed drastically. Others might not know the power of the golden talisman, but Yang Yuming was very clear about it. Perhaps the power of the golden talisman was not particularly strong against enemies, but in terms of massacring a city, the golden talisman was one of the best. Initial estimation. If this golden talisman were to explode, North City would very likely be reduced to nothingness. Ningyu, don't let that talisman explode. Yang Yuming did not dare to neglect and immediately shouted at Ningyu. Ha ha ha, I want to see if you want to save those foolish humans in North City, or if you want to save Xiao Duanya. The Supreme Devil Tyrant raised his head and laughed out loud. Then, the aura on his body rose rapidly, and he turned around and charged towards Xiao Duanya. What should we do? Ningyu's brain worked furiously, trying to think of a countermeasure. After all, he was alone. If he could block the golden talisman, he would not be able to stop the Venerable Devil Tyrant. On the other side, Xiao Duanya was already a spent force. If he didn't help him, then his fate would be very miserable. How troublesome. After thinking for a second, Ningyu made a decision. Save Xiao Duanya. No matter what, Xiao Duanya was a strong practitioner of the intermediate stage of the Celestial King realm. The effect of saving him was far greater than saving the warriors of North City. This was because once Xiao Duanya was killed, then his chances of winning against the venerable devil tyrant and the venerable devil blood would be greatly reduced. So, saving Xiao Duanya was the most correct choice. However, although Ningyu had chosen to save Xiao Duanya, he did not completely abandon North City. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As he waved the red demon sword, he unleashed several sword projections in an attempt to change the trajectory of the golden talismans. At the same time, he ordered the black-white double ghosts, Tai Muqiang, the Western Venerable, and the Southern Venerable to do their best to stop the golden talisman. After finishing all this, Ningyu no longer cared about the golden talisman. Instead, he wholeheartedly pursued the supreme devil tyrant. As for whether North City would be destroyed or not, it no longer mattered to him. He had already done everything he could. You. The supreme devil tyrant turned his head and swept a glance. He wanted to see Ningyu's panicked look, but unfortunately, he saw Ningyu appear not far behind him. This discovery made the supreme devil tyrant reveal a terrified expression. Raising his head and shouting, the supreme devil tyrant immediately increased his speed and rushed towards the venerable devil blood. Where are you going? How could Ningyu let the supreme devil tyrant and the venerable devil blood meet up? He coldly snorted and threw the red demon sword in his hand. Whoosh! The red demon sword tore through the void and instantly appeared behind the supreme devil tyrant. It ruthlessly stabbed towards the back of the supreme devil tyrant's head. Venerable devil blood, save me! Feeling the red flying sword speeding towards him from behind, the supreme devil tyrant did not have time to think and hurriedly asked the venerable devil blood for help. You dare! The venerable devil blood forced Xiao Duanya to retreat with one move and shouted at Ningyu. Noisy. Ningyu did not care about how the venerable devil blood shouted. In a battle of life and death, why would there be so much nonsense? Poof! The energy in the red demon sword surged and immediately pierced through the back of the supreme devil tyrant's head and came out between his eyebrows. Such a change was obviously beyond the expectations of the supreme devil tyrant. He originally thought that with the help of the venerable devil blood, he could escape. Who would have thought? In the end, he still could not escape, and his brain was pierced by Ningyu. Kai. Ningyu's body rushed out, his right hand holding the red demon sword tightly. The terrifying devouring power in his body surged out and entered the supreme devil tyrant's head. With the eruption of this devouring power, the supreme devil tyrant's body gradually became shriveled. Not long after, the supreme devil tyrant turned into a piece of human skin. Who? On the other hand, Ningyu. He slowly spat out a mouthful of turbid air. After devouring the supreme devil tyrant, Ningyu's strength had a qualitative leap. Originally, Ningyu could easily kill an expert who had just entered the intermediate immortal king stage, but against an experienced intermediate immortal king stage powerhouse, he could only resist, or even be killed. But now, even if he encountered an experienced intermediate immortal king stage powerhouse, he could still easily resist, and even kill him. Rumble. Just as Ningyu devoured the supreme devil tyrant, in the distant sky above North City, the golden talisman completely exploded. The shockwaves of the explosion continuously attacked North City. Fortunately, the Western Venerable and the others did their best to resist, otherwise, the aftermath of the explosion was enough to completely destroy North City. However, even so, North City was still greatly affected. Countless martial artists in the city died, and some weaker martial artists had their eardrums ruptured, and blood flowed out of their 7 orifices. But this situation was already considered a blessing in the misfortune. If not for the Western Venerable and the others risking their lives to resist, North City would have probably been reduced to ashes. Run. The venerable devil blood was not a hothead. The matter of Ningyu killing the supreme devil tyrant was completely seen by him. In a one-on-one fight, he could kill Xiao Duanya. But if Ningyu was added, then his chances of winning would drop very low. Crack. The venerable devil blood left as soon as he said he wanted to. He immediately tore open the void and went in. Go. Seeing that the venerable devil blood wanted to escape, Xiao Duanya was instantly energized. First, he took out an elixir and threw it into his mouth to chew. Then, Xiao Duanya chased with an extremely terrifying speed. "Where do you think you're going?" Ningyu cooperated with Xiao Duanya. He held the red devil sword in his hand, and instantly chased far away. After devouring the supreme devil tyrant, Ningyu's strength had increased a lot. Even if he faced the venerable devil blood alone, he could still kill him, let alone when he joined forces with Xiao Duanya. Bang! In just a short 3 minutes, the venerable devil blood was blasted out of the void, and fell heavily to the ground. Fart! Fresh blood spurted out of his mouth. The venerable devil blood's aura instantly dropped to the freezing point. Kill! Seeing this, Ningyu let out a low roar, wanting to kill the venerable devil blood. But, at this moment, Xiao Duanya hurriedly said, "Don't kill him, it's more useful to keep him alive." Xiao Duanya's words made Ningyu frown slightly, somewhat puzzled. Keeping him alive was useful? Chapter 2431. Chapter 2431. Chapter 2431. Although he was confused, Ningyu still chose to stop. Seeing that Ningyu had stopped his attacks, Xiao Duanya revealed an expression of relief. Sho. His feet moved. Xiao Duanya immediately came before venerable devil blood, and asked in a deep voice, "Have the other 107 great regions all launched an attack on the entrance to the immortal court?" Venerable devil blood spat out a mouthful of saliva, and said fiercely, "Xiao Duanya, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you guys are blocking us. To tell you the truth, the battle sovereign is fighting with the experts guarding the entrance of the immortal court. If I'm not mistaken, the battle sovereign will win in half an hour at most. Once the war emperor wins, all of you will die." Xiao Duanya was also not someone who could be easily bullied. He raised his right hand and ruthlessly slapped venerable devil blood's face. The enormous force directly caused 5 bloody scars to appear on venerable devil blood's face. "I know even if you don't tell me," Xiao Duanya said coldly. "This time, your heavenly demons have mobilized many strong practitioners, and will definitely attack a few entrances. However, there is one thing that I am very sure of, and that is that you will definitely not be able to attack this large region. Confidence is a good thing, but overconfidence becomes a bad thing," venerable devil blood said indifferently. "You're about to die, yet you're still so stubborn." Xiao Duanya did not intend to spare venerable devil blood's life. After saying this, he raised his right hand and punched at venerable devil blood's heart. Catcher! All of a sudden, devil blood venerable's heart was pierced through, and he fell backward on the spot. Thump! The sound of flesh hitting the ground could be heard. At this moment, the intermediate stage immortal king of the heavenly devils, venerable devil blood, had been killed by Xiao Duanya. "Ningyu, I'll leave him to you." After killing the demon blood venerable, Xiao Duanya exerted some force with his right leg and kicked the demon blood venerable toward Ningyu. The scene of Ningyu devouring the venerable devil tyrant was still fresh in Xiao Duanya's mind, and it was hard for him to forget it. If he handed over venerable devil blood to him, he might be able to absorb some energy, but most of it would definitely be wasted. Instead of handing it over to him, it was better to hand it over to Ningyu. Then it would be impolite of me to refuse. Ningyu did not stand on ceremony with Xiao Duanya. Although he had swallowed the supreme demon tyrant and his strength had increased by a lot, it was not particularly stable. If he could devour the devil blood venerable, his condition would reach a frightening level. Perhaps, below the late stage of the celestial king realm, he could really be invincible. Kai. He didn't waste any time. Ningyu placed his right hand on venerable devil blood's body, and a steady stream of devouring power burst out from his body. Very soon, venerable devil blood had become a piece of human skin. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu expressed his satisfaction. Relatively speaking, the energy contained within venerable devil blood's body was much more vigorous than venerable devil tyrant's. After devouring venerable devil blood, Ningyu felt that the energy within his body had reached its limit. At this time, even if he was given energy to devour, he would not be able to digest it. Unless he completely exhausted the energy within his body, His body would not be able to contain any more energy. Fortunately, Ningyu's speed of exhaustion was very fast. Under normal circumstances, he would only need a day to completely exhaust the energy within his body. Let's go, follow me to the entrance of the immortal court. Seeing that Ningyu had finished devouring venerable devil blood, Xiao Duanya let out a low roar and headed straight for Broken Cliff City. Ningyu frowned slightly, then he stomped on the ground and followed closely behind. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The rest, such as the Western Venerable, Tai Muqiang, Yang Yuming and the rest, did not stop, and all chased after him. About 10 minutes later. Broken Cliff City, in a hidden area. Whoosh. Numerous figures descended. These figures were none other than Ningyu, Xiao Duanya, and the rest. After leaving the northern city, they quickly arrived at Broken Cliff City, which was the closest entrance to the Immortal Court. The entrance to the Immortal Court was heavily guarded, and there were dozens of formations. Crack crack crack. Xiao Duanya clearly knew the method to dispel these formations. He continuously took out crystal balls from his bosom and threw them at the formations. Every time a crystal ball was thrown at the formations would completely shatter. This continued. After about 10 minutes, Xiao Duanya stopped. All of you, step back. Xiao Duanya took a deep breath and turned back to look at Ningyu, Tai Muqiang, and the rest, saying, I want to open the entrance to the Immortal Court. At that time, the battle monarchs of the heavenly demons might appear, or the protectors of our Immortal Court might appear. What are protectors? Ningyu asked in confusion. The Immortal Court has a total of 108 entrances, corresponding to 108 regions. At this time, Xiao Duanya clearly did not intend to hide it from Ningyu. He explained, every great region is guarded by a super celestial kingdom. The great region corresponding to our entrance is one of the 8 southern regions of the Immortal Court. The power of the heavenly demons far exceeds our imagination. The battle monarchs of the heavenly demons have the strength of a late-stage celestial king. There are even battle monarchs whose strength can reach the peak of the celestial king realm. The protectors of the great regions among the humans have the strength of a late-stage celestial king realm. If the battle monarchs we encounter this time are at the peak of the celestial king realm, then what awaits us is the great region falling into the control of the heavenly demons. Crack. Xiao Duanya spoke extremely quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out 10 golden tokens and threw them at the bronze door of the Immortal Court's entrance. Actually, there were 2 entrances to the Immortal Court. One was the normal entrance. As long as one had the token of the Immortal Court, one could enter. The other was the entrance that Xiao Duanya had opened. Unless it was a critical moment, he would definitely not open it. Creak. The tokens embedded themselves into the bronze door, causing it to slowly open. Be careful. Xiao Duanya quickly took a few steps back and stared at the crack of the bronze door. The situation was extremely dangerous. If the protectors of the Immortal Court won, then everyone would be happy. If the battle monarchs won, then the consequences would be unthinkable. The process of opening the bronze door was extremely torturous for Ningyu, Xiao Duanya, and the others. After all, no one would be excited at the moment of life and death. Bang! 3 minutes passed. When the 4th minute arrived, a crisp sound rang out. Not good. Hearing this crisp sound, Xiao Duanya's expression changed drastically. He grabbed the Western Reverend, who was beside him, and retreated. In the battle just now, the Western Reverend was the most severely injured. Hence, Xiao Duanya had to bring him away. Otherwise, the first to die would probably be the Western Reverend. Crack. Xiao Duanya and the others had just retreated a few steps when the bronze door suddenly shattered. Whoosh. Countless fragments of the stone door attacked Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. Block it. It was a critical moment. Ningyu waved his hands continuously, forming an energy barrier in front of him, blocking the fragments of the stone door in front of him. Ha ha ha, this entrance to the Immortal Court is mine, at this moment. Chapter 2432. Chapter 2432 OFDWAR Space Storm Humph. Liu Fiend, with me, Song Shahao, around, you can't stir up any waves. At the same time, Another cold snort sounded from the other side of the bronze door. Then let's fight. Willow Demon's expression turned cold as he rushed towards Song Shihao. Rumble. Song Shihao wasn't to be outdone, and he advanced instead of retreating as he similarly flashed towards Willow Demon. A great battle broke out instantly. Outside the bronze door, Ningyu, Xiao Duanya, and the others did not even dare to breathe loudly. Only when the ripples from the battle grew weaker and weaker did they reveal expressions of relief. Obviously, the reason the bronze door was shattered was completely because of the aftermath of the battle between Liu Mo and Song Shihao. As the aftermath dissipated, the pressure on Ningyu and the others lessened significantly. What now? After a while, the Western Venerable One looked at Xiao Duanya and asked. Xiao Duanya pondered for a moment, and said, "Get ready. In 10 minutes, everyone will enter the realm of the immortal court together." Actually, Xiao Duanya did this because he had no other choice. Who knew if Liu Mo and Song Shihao would return? Through that ripple just now, Xiao Duanya could basically determine that no matter if it was Liu Mo or Song Shihao, their cultivations were both at the peak of the late Immortal King stage. The aftermath of the battle between the two of them could be greatly affected just by watching it from afar. All right. The Western Venerable Lord nodded and began to recover as much as he could. In the Battle of North City, the Western Venerable One was the most heavily injured. As for the others, such as Tai Muqiang and the Venerable of the South, thanks to Ningyu's timely appearance, their injuries were not too serious. The Western Venerable did not hesitate to use his trump card in order to severely injure Devil Blood Venerable. Unexpectedly, Venerable Devil Tyrant suddenly appeared and severely injured him. Under such circumstances, it was not easy for him to maintain his current state. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. To be honest, during these 10 minutes, be it the Western Venerable One, Tai Muqiang, Xiao Duanya or Ningyu, all of them had extremely grim expressions. After all, no one knew if Willow Devil and Song Shihao would return. Once they returned, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, after 10 minutes, there was still no movement from Liu Mo and Song Shihao. Go. Xiao Duanya took a deep breath. Then, he leapt into the air and charged straight towards the immortal court. Swish swish swish. Behind Xiao Duanya, Ningyu, Tai Muqiang, Yang Yuming, and the Venerable of the West followed closely. Boom. For Ningyu and the others, the first thing they felt upon entering the immortal court was pressure. A steady stream of pressure came from all directions, constantly squeezing their bodies. Fortunately, Ningyu and the others were very strong. Facing this pressure, they easily withstood it. Otherwise, just this pressure alone would be enough to crush them into meat patties. Even so, Yang Yuming's face was also deathly pale, becoming devoid of blood. Among these people, Yang Yuming was the weakest. He was only a 5th stage half-step immortal king. Generally speaking, it was very easy for a 5th stage half-step immortal king to enter the immortal court realm. But this time was different. The entrance that Xiao Duanya had chosen was very different from a normal entrance. If one's cultivation had not reached the immortal king realm, they would have to bear a pressure that ordinary people could not bear. Entering the immortal court realm through this entrance, although the pressure was very strong, the time needed was very short. The other entrance required about 3 days to enter the immortal court realm. This entrance, at most 3 hours, they would be able to enter the immortal court realm. Everyone, gather together. We might have to face a spatial storm later. Clearly, this was not the first time Xiao Duanya had entered the immortal court realm through this entrance. He unleashed the energy within his body and set up an energy barrier around them. At the same time, he said in a deep voice, "Those who still have strength, resist outside. Those who are heavily injured, quickly recover inside." Swish swish swish. Hearing Xiao Duanya's words, the Venerable of the West, the Venerable of the South, and even Xiao Duanya entered the innermost area. Now was not the time to joke around. Facing a spatial storm, if they were even the slightest bit careless, they might face a disaster. The Venerable of the West, the Venerable of the South, and the others all had injuries of varying degrees. Choosing to face it head-on now was clearly an unwise move. Swish, swish, swish. Unlike the Venerable of the West and the others. Ningyu, the double ghosts of black and white. The three of them flew to the outermost area. The double ghosts of black and white were heavenly demons. When necessary, Ningyu would choose to abandon them in order to replenish the energy barrier. Of course. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ningyu would not abandon the double ghosts of black and white. After all, the immortal court realm was extremely dangerous. With two heavenly demons at the peak of the early stage immortal king realm following them, it would save him a lot of trouble. Crack, crack, crack. However, at this moment, the void trembled. Immediately after, several gusts of biting cold wind appeared in the void. Not good, it's a spatial storm. Everyone, be careful. Seeing the sudden appearance of the cold wind, Xiao Duanya's expression changed greatly as he hurriedly warned them. At the same time, Xiao Duanya warned them as he injected the energy within his body into the energy barrier. Kai kai kai. Endless energy entered the energy barrier, causing it to be abnormally stable. The spatial storm doesn't seem too powerful. Yang Yuming looked at the spatial storm that was constantly battering the energy barrier, his expression slightly confused. He came from a super celestial nation, and he had heard from the experts of the celestial nation. A spatial storm was extremely terrifying. Not to mention an early-stage immortal king realm expert. Even an expert at the peak of the mid-stage immortal king realm would not be able to gain the slightest advantage when facing a spatial storm. But now, the power of this spatial storm was clearly something that Yang Yuming could not understand. This is just the prelude. Seemingly seeing through Yang Yuming's confusion, Xiao Duanya said in a low voice, "The power of a spatial storm is far greater than you can imagine." Rumble. It was unknown whether he was trying to please Xiao Duanya. Just as he finished speaking, the void in the distance suddenly split open. Several gusts of wind, each as thick as a person's waist, rushed over from all directions. Crack, 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 crack. Under the impact of the gusts of wind, cracks actually appeared on the energy barrier that Xiao Duanya had set up. Everyone, calm your minds. Xiao Duanya's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "Everyone, stop recovering. Everyone, inject your energy into the energy barrier to maintain its stability." These gusts of wind were all the prelude to a spatial storm. Xiao Duanya knew this better than anyone else. If they could not withstand the prelude to a spatial storm, the consequences would be extremely terrifying. This was because every spatial storm had an extreme spatial storm. If the energy barrier shattered before the extreme spatial storm appeared, then they were fated to be doomed this time. Therefore, Xiao Duanya immediately stopped the Western Venerable Lord and the rest, asking them to withstand these terrifying gusts of wind together. No problem. The Western Venerable, the Southern Venerable, and Tai Muqiang were also aware of the severity of the problem. Chapter 2433. Chapter 2433, New York Unfavorable. Crack, crack, crack. The power of the space storm's prelude was clearly beyond Xiao Duanya's imagination. Even the energy barrier, which had gathered the power of several people, was still unable to block the impact of the space storm. Cracking sounds rang out, indicating that the energy barrier was on the verge of collapse. "Don't hold back," Xiao Duanya bellowed, and said coldly, "Once the energy barrier breaks, we will have to depend on our fate." Roger. Hearing Xiao Duanya's words, the Western Venerable and the rest clearly realized the severity of the problem. There was no time to think. The Western Venerable and the rest immediately unleashed all the energy in their bodies, pouring it into the energy barrier without holding back. Crack, crack. However, even if the Western Venerable and the rest poured their energy into the energy barrier, it was still too late. The cracks in the energy barrier gradually widened from the center. Crack, crack. Not long after, a crisp sound rang out. Following this crisp sound, the energy barrier that Xiao Duanya had painstakingly built completely shattered. The shattering of the energy barrier caused Xiao Duanya's expression to change greatly. It must be known. The energy barrier was the barrier that they used to resist the space storm. Once the barrier shattered, they would have to face the space storm in the sky. "Ningyu, come with me. Let's face the space storm head-on." It was a critical moment. Xiao Duanya had no choice but to leave the energy barrier with Ningyu and face the space storm head-on. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this stage, Ningyu would no longer be complacent. His figure flashed, and he immediately left the energy barrier. He waved the red demon sword in his hand, and instantly, several sword rays swept out, blasting toward the space storm. Boom! Ningyu did not hold back much in his attack. All of the spatial gales that were struck by the sword light were shattered. While Ningyu's attack was effective, on the other side, Xiao Duanya's attack was equally effective. Rumble. Furthermore, the effect of Xiao Duanya's attack was much better than that of Ningyu's. As the space storm decreased, the pressure on the energy barrier decreased significantly. Whoosh! The Western Venerable, the Southern Venerable, and even Tai Muqiang heaved a sigh of relief. Ha ha ha, Song Shahao, take this. At this moment, an extremely familiar voice rang in everyone's ears. Not good. Hearing this familiar voice, Xiao Duanya and Ningyu's expressions changed drastically. Without a doubt, the owner of this voice was the heavenly demon, Willow Demon. As a heavenly devil at the peak of the late immortal king realm, Willow Devil was extremely powerful. In the battle between him and Song Shahao, it was obvious that Song Shahao was at a disadvantage. Let's get rid of these small fries first. Very soon, Willow Demon discovered Ningyu and the others. Without any hesitation, Willow Devil took out 99 flying swords and surrounded Song Shahao in the middle. As for him, he leapt into the air rapidly, and charged towards Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. Bang! Bang! Willow Demon's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, he arrived before Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. He threw 2 punches in a row. Every punch landed squarely on Ningyu's and Xiao Duanya's chests. Poochie! Poochie! The huge force that came from their chests caused Ningyu and Xiao Duanya to spit out a large mouthful of blood, and their auras became slightly weak. Willow Demon, if you dare touch them, I'll kill you. Seeing that Willow Demon was about to kill Ningyu and Xiao Duanya, Song Shahao yelled loudly. He did not hesitate to burn his life to increase his strength, forcing back the 99 flying swords around him, and leapt out rapidly. If I die just because you want me to die, wouldn't that be very embarrassing for me? Willow Demon curled his lips, then gave up on attacking Ningyu and Xiao Duanya, and turned to attack the energy barrier. Crack! Crack! Willow Demon was a peerless heavenly demon at the late immortal king realm. His attack directly shattered the energy barrier. The shattering of the energy barrier caused the Western Venerable and Southern Venerable to be surrounded by a spatial storm. Come here quickly. Seeing this, Ningyu hurriedly threw out the red demon sword. Poochie! The red demon sword was extremely fast, and arrived beside the shattered energy barrier in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! 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 Yang Yuming, the Western Venerable, the Southern Venerable, and Tai Muqiang were not stupid. Seeing that the red demon sword had opened, they immediately moved and entered the red demon sword. As for the remaining black-white double ghosts, they chose to go in the opposite direction of the red demon sword, and charged towards Willow Demon. Their idea was simple. Let Willow Demon take action and help them remove the control over Ningyu. Lord Battle Emperor, save us. The black-white double ghosts came to Willow Demon's side and cried out hurriedly. Willow Demon unleashed his senses and probed the black-white double ghosts' bodies. This probing caused Willow Demon's expression to change slightly. How powerful was Willow Demon? With just a glance, he could see the situation inside the black-white double ghosts' bodies. How is the situation outside? Willow Demon did not rescue the black-white double ghosts immediately. Instead, he asked in a low voice. Venerable Demon Blood and Venerable Demon Tyrant have both died in battle. The black-white double ghosts did not dare to be careless, and immediately replied, the remaining dozen early-stage immortal king heavenly demons, including a few emperors, have all died in battle. Trash. Hearing this, Willow Demon's expression turned cold, and he waved his hands repeatedly. In an instant, 2 beams of cold light swept out from his sleeves. Swoosh. The cold light was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the black-white double ghosts. Puff, puff. The cold light gradually expanded in the black-white double ghost's eyes, and finally, it pierced through their heart. To death. The black-white double ghosts did not understand why Willow Demon would kill them. However, very soon, Willow Demon revealed his intentions. Puff. His left hand was on the black demon's head, and his right hand was on the white demon's shoulder. An extremely terrifying devouring power shot out from the center of his palm. In just a few short seconds, the black-white double ghosts were turned into two pieces of human skin. Whoosh. Throwing the black-white double ghosts aside, Willow Demon revealed an expression of relief. What was lacking came. He was originally worried that he would not be able to kill Song Shahao easily. Although he had the advantage, he did not have much energy left in his body. Even if he could kill Song Shahao, he would be greatly affected, and he might even be seriously injured. Damn it. On the other side, Song Shahao flew to Xiao Duanya's side. Seeing Willow Demon kill the black-white double ghosts so ruthlessly, his expression became very ugly. In a battle between experts, the slightest carelessness would cause one to fall into a bottomless abyss. At this moment, the energy in Song Shahao's body was not at its peak. Against Willow Demon at his peak, the possibility of him winning was only 30%. In fact, the possibility was even lower. Swoosh. Thinking of this, Song Shahao's eyes turned, and he lightly swept his gaze across Xiao Duanya and Ningyu. I'm going to kill you. Ningyu swore on the spot. How could he not know what Song Shahao was thinking? Chapter 2434. Chapter 2434 OFDWAR Form Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He looked at Song Shahao cautiously. As long as Song Shahao revealed any signs, he would think of a way to leave at once. Actually, he was not worried that he would not be able to leave. There was no other reason. Even if Song Shahao wanted to devour them, he had to get Liu Mo's permission. Willow Demon wouldn't just watch as Song Shahao recovered. As expected, Liu Mo's attention was all on Song Shahao. However, Song Shahao's actions were clearly out of Ningyu's expectations. He leaped up and stood in front of Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. He said to Willow Demon in a deep voice, "You, a dignified heavenly demon battle emperor, actually attacked your own subordinates. If news of this were to spread, I'm afraid that you would lose all face. Haha, the winner takes all." Liu Mo was not angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "When I kill all of you, who will tell on me?" Humph. Song Shahao snorted coldly. He turned to look at Ningyu and Xiao Duanya and said, "I will hold Liu Mo back. You two leave quickly." "Thank you, senior." Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He bowed to Song Shahao, then leaped up and dashed into the distance. Ningyu knew very well. If he was polite to Song Shahao now, he would definitely be killed in the end. Since Song Shahao dared to let him and Xiao Duanya leave first, it meant that he had the ability to protect himself. Normally, which of these late-stage Celestial King experts had not climbed out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of fire? On the surface, Song Shahao was at a disadvantage, and his aura was extremely weak. However, who knew the real situation? What if Song Shahao was purposely showing weakness to the enemy to make Liu Mo lower his guard? Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing Ningyu leave, Xiao Duanya also gathered the energy in his body at his ankles and quickly followed behind Ningyu. Where are you going? How could Willow Demon possibly watch as Ningyu and Xiao Duanya left? No matter what, the deaths of the double demons of Black and White, the Venerable Demon Blood, the Venerable Demon Tyrant, and the others were all related to Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. More than half of the top powerhouses among the Skyfians had died. He had to take revenge for this. "Willow Demon, your opponent is me." Song Shahao's figure flashed, blocking Willow Demon's path. He said coldly, "Don't think that you can contend against me just because you devoured the black-white twin malevolence to replenish your energy. To tell you the truth, I have something to replenish my energy as well." Catcher. During the conversation, Song Shahao took out a red pill from his robes. The pill entered Song Shahao's mouth and went down his throat into his stomach. Boom. Almost in an instant, Song Shahao's aura returned to its peak state. A pinnacle Celestial King grade medicinal pill. Demonic Willow gazed coldly at Song Shihao, and he said in a low voice, I never expected that your 8th Southern Territory would be so generous to actually provide all of you Guardians with peak Immortal King-level medicinal pill. 8 Southern Regions. It was an alliance of 8 large regions in the south of the Immortal Court. 8 large regions, each of which had a super celestial kingdom. These super celestial kingdoms formed a huge alliance and sent Guardians to the entrance of the Immortal Court. Obviously, the news of the Scythians' large-scale attack on the entrance of the Immortal Court had long been leaked. Otherwise, it was impossible for 8 southern regions to take out a Pinnacle Celestial King-grade medicinal pill, because Pinnacle Celestial King-grade medicinal pills were extremely rare. Even a Pinnacle Celestial King-grade martial artist could quickly recover to his peak state after swallowing a medicinal pill, let alone a late-stage Celestial King-grade martial artist. You found out too late. Song Shihao grabbed at the void with his right hand. In an instant, a cold light appeared, and he threw it towards Demonic Willow. Catcher. Demonic Willow didn't dare to be careless. He also grabbed out a cold light, and it collided with the cold light that Song Shihao threw out. The two cold lights collided. Neither Demonic Willow nor Song Shihao had the upper hand. The cold lights that they threw out dissipated between heaven and earth at the same time. Interesting. Demonic Willow looked coldly at Song Shihao and said calmly, Do you think that you can do whatever you want with a Pinnacle Celestial King-grade medicinal pill? To tell you the truth, your thinking is a little too naive. As his voice faded, Demonic Willow reached deep into his robes and took out a golden scroll. A Pinnacle Celestial King-grade scroll. Seeing the scroll that appeared in Demonic Willow's hand, Song Shihao was finally moved. The golden scroll was not an ordinary scroll, but a scroll that was comparable to a Pinnacle Celestial King-grade martial artist's all-out attack. To put it simply, Demonic Willow activated the scroll and could explode with an extremely powerful attack. I'll give you a chance to live now. Demonic Willow waved the scroll in his hand and said calmly, Give up your identity as the Guardian of 8 southern regions and join us Scythians. Be my right-hand man. What if I say no? Song Shihao said in a low voice. Hee. Demonic Willow didn't answer Song Shihao. Instead, energy surged out of his body and slowly flowed into the golden scroll. Bang bang bang, as the energy entered the scroll, muffled sounds came from within. Hearing these sounds, Song Shihao's expression became extremely ugly. He knew that Demonic Willow really wanted to kill him. With his current abilities, unless he used all his trump cards, he would not be able to withstand a Pinnacle Celestial King-grade martial artist's all-out attack. And even if he withstood the power of the scroll's explosion, he would basically lose his combat ability. It would be very difficult for him to fight Demonic Willow head-on. Time's up. Make your choice. Demonic Willow played with the scroll in his hand as he said, You only have one chance. I hope you can cherish it. Buzz buzz. At the same time, in the void not far away, Ningyu and Xiao Duanya hadn't left yet. At this moment, they looked at Song Shihao with serious expressions. No one knew what Song Shihao would choose. Actually, it wasn't that they didn't want to leave, but that Demonic Willow had already set up a formation around them. Although the two of them were strong, it would be difficult for them to break the formation. Lin Lang had the ability to break the formation. However, there were spatial storms all around them. With Lin Lang's abilities, as long as he appeared, he would be crushed into pieces by the spatial storms. Duanya City Lord, what does 8 southern regions mean? Ningyu didn't seem to care about Song Shihao's choice. He looked at Xiao Duanya and asked, Isn't the Immortal Court divided by celestial kingdoms? Low-grade celestial kingdoms, mid-grade celestial kingdoms, super celestial kingdoms, and so on. Could the 8 southern regions be the division of the Immortal Court? The so-called 8 southern regions is an alliance of 8 great regions. Xiao Duanya explained carefully, there are a total of 109 great regions in the Immortal Court. North, south, east, west, and west, there are 27 great regions. In the center is the sovereign region. Leaving aside the sovereign region, the other 108 great regions all have super celestial kingdoms. According to the division of the Immortal Court's entrance, the great regions near the entrance will temporarily form an alliance to guard the entrance together. In the immortal court, the people at the bottom level don't know about this. They only know that they are ruled by celestial kingdoms, but they don't know that there is an alliance of great regions above them. Ning Yu's expression was somewhat solemn. From the looks of it, the situation in the immortal court was rather complicated. 108 great regions, and one sovereign region. Chapter 24:35. Skin and tendons rumble. While Ning Yu and Xiao Duanya were still conversing, Song Shihao was already engaged in battle with Liu Mo. Song Shihao had an extremely strong sense of justice. Of course, anyone who could be chosen as the guardian of the entrance to the immortal court was an existence with an extremely strong sense of justice. Otherwise, the 108 entrances to the immortal court would have been broken through long ago. Song Shihao was more worried that Liu Mo would use the golden scroll, so he directly used a secret technique to come to Liu Mo's side and engage in close combat with her. Song Shihao was very clear. Only by engaging in close combat with Liu Mo would the final result not be so serious. This was because once Willow Demon activated the scroll, he would be greatly affected as well. Kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800 of your own. Song Shihao did not believe that Liu Mo would activate the scroll under such circumstances. After all, if he had such thoughts, he would have activated the scroll long ago. He would not have waited until now. You're courting death. Liu Mo did not expect Song Shihao to be so bold. He had already taken out the scroll, yet Song Shihao still dared to fight him head-on. Raising his head and roaring angrily, Liu Mo did not hesitate to pour all of his energy into his fist and punched out. Child's play. Song Shihao was not worried that Liu Mo would exchange blows with him. As long as he did not use the scroll, everything would be fine. His strength was on par with Liu Mo's. Under the premise that both sides did not use their ultimate trump cards, no one could kill the other. Bang! In an instant, Song Shihao's fist collided with Liu Mo's. The two fists collided. Song Shihao and Liu Mo retreated dozens of feet at the same time. Whoosh! However, Song Shihao was not a fool. He immediately steadied himself and once again used a secret technique to come before Liu Mo. I'm so angry. Liu Mo was so angry that his nose was crooked. He wanted to use the scroll, but he was worried that he would hurt himself. For a moment, he was caught in a dilemma. Fight. Liu Mo was not an irresolute person. He knew that if this continued, the experts of the 8 southern regions would very likely arrive. He was in contact with the battle emperors of the other 7 regions. Apart from him, only one of the other 7 major domains had its entrance breached. The remaining 6 regions had withstood the pressure. Not only had they guarded the entrance, they had also killed 3 War Emperor-level sky demons. You should know. The weakest of the War Emperor-level sky demons were at the late stage of the Immortal King stage. Although the Heavenly Demon force was strong, losing a late-stage Immortal King Heavenly Demon was still very stressful. Catcher. Willow Demon took out a pill and threw it into his mouth. As the medicinal pill entered his stomach, Willow Demon's aura soared once again. Only when his aura reached the peak of the late Immortal King realm did he choose to stop. Kai. Next. A steady stream of energy poured into the golden scroll. As the energy entered the golden scroll, a sizzling sound came from within it. The sounds grew louder and louder. In the end, the entire scroll exploded. Boom! The aftermath of the huge explosion caused Song Shihao's expression to change drastically. He immediately gathered energy in front of him, forming an energy barrier in an attempt to block the aftermath of the explosion. Ka. However, in the end, the energy shield was still a notch weaker. Under the impact of countless shockwaves, many cracks appeared on the energy shield. Not long after, it completely shattered. Poochie. Song Shihao, who was in the middle of the protective barrier, was also sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was deathly pale. Bang! Other than Song Shihao, even Willow Demon was not spared. He heavily smashed into the ground. Although he didn't spray out blood, his face had become incomparably pale. Obviously, Willow Demon had suffered a very serious injury. However, when the aftermath had dissipated, Willow Demon directly stood up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said coldly to Song Shihao, "Fighting with me, you're still too inexperienced." Actually, when Willow Demon detonated the scroll, he was still quite worried. After all, he and Song Shihao were both at the center of the explosion. Even though he had a peak Immortal King level armor on his body, he didn't dare say that he could block the aftermath with 100% certainty. Fortunately, his peak Immortal King battle armor was effective. At the price of shattering the armor, he exchanged his life, and he still had the strength of a middle Immortal King. As for Song Shihao, because cracks had already appeared on his peak Immortal King level armor, he couldn't withstand the aftermath. At this moment, his battle strength was only at the early Immortal King level. One was at the early Immortal King level, and the other was at the middle Immortal King level. Needless to say, Willow Demon had completely taken the initiative. "Hihi, Song Shihao, I gave you a chance before, but unfortunately, you didn't know how to cherish it." Willow Demon wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, smiled slightly, and said, "Today, I'll let you know that your reputation as a guardian is undeserved." Swish. The moment the last word sounded, Willow Demon rushed out, rushing towards Song Shihao at an extremely terrifying speed. It could be seen. Willow Demon's patience had reached its limit. Song Shihao had caused him to activate a life-saving scroll, so he had to cut Song Shihao into pieces. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough to relieve the hatred in his heart, because a peak Immortal King level scroll, when necessary, could even withstand the attack of a peak Immortal King expert. Without the golden scroll, Willow Demon was only a third-rate combat emperor, ranked last among the 8 combat emperors in the 8 southern regions. However, with the golden scroll, he had the qualifications to challenge the other combat emperors. Now that he had detonated the scroll, unless he could devour Song Shihao, his status in the small 8 southern regions war zone would drop to the freezing point. Damn it! Seeing Willow Demon rushing towards him, Song Shihao's face became extremely cold. He clenched his teeth and made an extremely difficult decision. Boom! Energy spread throughout his body, and Song Shihao's body began to swell. Obviously, Song Shihao didn't plan to leave. He planned to detonate his body and perish together with Willow Demon. "Humph! You want to detonate your body in front of me? You are too arrogant." Willow Demon was obviously not afraid of Song Shihao detonating his body. He snorted coldly and took out a bronze mirror from his bosom. Swoosh! He pointed the bronze mirror at Song Shihao, and a beam of light shot out from the bronze mirror and hit Song Shihao's body. Crack crack! Just as the beam of light hit Song Shihao's body, Song Shihao's swollen body began to shrink. Prevent self-detonation. The bronze mirror's function was to prevent all experts from self-detonating. It was no exaggeration. Even if a peak Immortal King expert wanted to self-detonate, his true form would be revealed when the bronze mirror shone on him, and he wouldn't be able to self-detonate. This was because the bronze mirror was a peak Immortal King level magic treasure, and even among peak Immortal King level magic treasures, it was a top existence. Heart-revealing mirror. Seeing the bronze mirror in Willow Demon's hand, Song Shihao's face became extremely pale. The heavenly demon was indeed well prepared. They could even get their hands on a magic treasure like the heart-revealing mirror. Now, even if he wanted to self-detonate, he wouldn't be able to. "Song Shihao, when I attack 8 southern regions, the first family I will deal with will be your Song family." Chapter 2436. Eating well and drinking well you dare. Song Shihao was enraged. He extended his right hand and pointed at Liu Mo, saying fiercely, "If you dare to touch the people of the Song clan, even if I turn into ashes, I will tear you into pieces." Ha ha ha. Liu Mo seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first raised his head and laughed wildly, then said sinisterly, "How laughable. You've already turned into ashes, yet you still want to tear me into pieces." The instant the word Duan was uttered, Liu Mo leaped up and charged out at an extremely terrifying speed. Although his aura had dropped to around the intermediate stage of the Celestial King realm, Liu Mo's abilities were still abnormally strong. Before Song Shihao could react, he had already arrived in front of Song Shihao and punched out with his right hand. Without any deviation, his punch landed squarely on Song Shihao's chest. Bang! The huge force caused Song Shihao to fly backward. It was very unfortunate. The direction in which Song Shihao flew was the direction in which Ningyu and Xiao Duanya were hiding. Don't go save Song Shihao. I will hold Liu Mo back. Ningyu made a prompt decision. He decided to hold Liu Mo back and let Xiao Duanya save Song Shihao. After all, in terms of battle prowess, the current him was already much stronger than Xiao Duanya. Letting him hold Liu Mo back was the most correct choice. No problem. Xiao Duanya knew his own capabilities. He did not argue with Ningyu, but hurriedly dashed out and charged towards Song Shihao. Whoosh! As for Ningyu, he drew out the red demon sword and turned his hand to look at Liu Mo behind Song Shihao. Leave quickly. You are no match for him. Seeing Ningyu appear from thin air, Song Shihao hurriedly shouted, wanting to remind Ningyu to leave. Leave? Haha, since you're here, then stay. Liu Mo's lips curled up. He waved his sleeves and casually threw out a few beams of cold light, wanting to kill Ningyu. However, Willow Demon had clearly underestimated Ningyu's combat strength. Even if he gave it his all, he would not be able to hurt Ningyu, let alone casually throwing out a few beams of cold light. There was no other reason. Currently, his battle prowess was only at the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm. At this level, he did not have the ability to kill Ningyu. Ka. The red demon sword collided with the cold light. Under Willow Demon's astonished gaze, the cold light was cut in half. Willow Demon's brows twitched. He was still calm on the surface, but in reality, raging waves had already been set off in his heart. He knew better than anyone that Ningyu and Xiao Duanya had not left. After all, he had set up a formation in the surroundings, and there were no gaps in the formation, which meant that Ningyu and Xiao Duanya had been hiding in the surroundings all this while. However, he did not expect Ningyu to be so powerful. He had originally thought that even if his cultivation had dropped to the intermediate stage of the Celestial King realm, it would still be a piece of cake for him to kill Ningyu and Xiao Duanya. Who would have thought? The ability that Ningyu had displayed now was completely beyond his expectations, and he did not expect it. Illuminate the world. However, Willow Demon reacted quickly. He hurriedly took out the heart-revealing mirror and forced out a few drops of blood essence. Whoosh! The blood essence had just entered the heart-revealing mirror when several pillars of light appeared. These pillars of light surged towards Ningyu from all directions, and very quickly enveloped Ningyu within. Unless you have the ability of a peak intermediate stage Celestial King realm, there is no way you can break through these pillars of light. Seeing Ningyu trapped within the pillars of light, Willow Demon humphed coldly. The heart-revealing mirror was a peak Celestial King realm treasure. Generally speaking, it could prevent a martial artist from self-destructing. However, its use was far more than that. Every peak Celestial King realm treasure was not simple. Not only could the heart-revealing mirror prevent a martial artist from self-destructing, but it was also very effective against enemies. Is that so? Willow Demon had just finished speaking when a calm voice traveled into his ears. What? Hearing this voice, Willow Demon looked in the direction of the voice. What he saw caused his expression to change drastically. He saw that Ningyu had already broken through the pillars of light and appeared 3 feet away from him. At this distance, if Ningyu wanted to, he could injure him at any time. Of course. How could Ningyu not be willing? After breaking through the pillars of light with great difficulty, Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked Willow Demon's head. Block. At this critical moment, Willow Demon hurriedly raised his hand to block. Crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. Ningyu stood where he was without moving. On the other hand, Willow Demon's arm was broken, and his entire body was sent flying several feet away. After stabilizing his body, Willow Demon stared at Ningyu, his face full of disbelief. He did not expect the final result to be like this. One had to know. Even though he was injured, he still had the heart-revealing mirror, and his strength was still incomparably powerful. Now that Ningyu had easily broken through the pillars of light shot out from the heart-revealing mirror, it was very difficult for him to accept. You what? Ningyu rolled his eyes, then asked Song Shihao, who was recovering on the other side, Capture him alive or kill him? Capture him alive. Song Shahao dragged his heavy steps to Ningyu's side and said in a deep voice, Willow Demon is the war emperor of the heavenly demons. He is of great strategic importance. We can use him to exchange for human warriors. Song Shahao had already received the news. In the 8 southern regions, the entrance of a large region had been broken through, and the guardian of that large region had been captured alive. At this moment, the experts of that large region were confronting the heavenly demons. If they could capture Willow Demon, they might be able to rescue the guardian of that large region. No problem. Ningyu nodded, then walked towards Song Shahao step by step. Dong, dong, dong. Although Ningyu walked slowly, every step he took was like a stone weighing thousands of kilograms, landing on Willow Demon's heart. We must ask for help. Willow Demon was not an arrogant and conceited heavenly demon. He knew that if the battle continued, the one who would lose would definitely be him. Therefore, he took out a crystal ball from his chest and wanted to crush it to ask for help from the war emperors of the other large regions. Whoosh! However, just as Willow Demon took out the crystal ball, a terrifying gust of wind appeared, dragging the crystal ball and rushing towards it. Space storm. This gust of wind was not caused by Ningyu, Xiao Duanya, or Song Shahao. Instead, it was the appearance of the space storm, which took the crystal ball by surprise. Seeing the crystal ball being taken away, Willow Demon felt like crying. If he could not ask for help, then his fate could be predicted. Damn it! Cursing in his heart, Willow Demon forced himself to calm down. He looked at Ningyu and Song Shahao and said, I have set up a formation in the surroundings. Without my help, even if you control me, you will not be able to break the formation. Looks like you are very confident in your attainments in formations. Ningyu shrugged and did not deny it. Let me go, I can break the formation, Willow Demon said in a low voice. Chapter 2437. Secrets of the War God Body Ka. Liu Mo clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. As a battle emperor level existence among the heavenly demons, Liu Mo's self-healing ability was extremely strong. His broken arm had already been reattached. However, it was basically impossible to recover to the late-stage immortal king level in a short period of time. Therefore, Liu Mo could only try his best to stall for time, hoping that Ningyu would not forcefully attack him. Otherwise, he might really die here today. Have you thought it through? Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest, looked at Liu Mo, and said, Hand over the heart-revealing mirror and submit to me, or I will kill you right now. Here you go. Liu Mo clenched his teeth, as if he had made a very difficult decision. He took out the heart-revealing mirror and threw it at Ningyu. Pa! Ningyu reacted in time, his eyes quick, and he caught the heart-revealing mirror steadily. Without further inspection, Ningyu directly threw the heart-revealing mirror into the red demon sword. Soon after, Ningyu looked at Liu Mo again, and said, Relax your mind. I can relax my mind, but I have a condition. Liu Mo said in a deep voice, You must promise me, no matter when, you cannot kill me. Hihi, have you lost your mind? Ningyu smiled slightly. No matter when, he could not kill me. He really did not know how Liu Mo could say something like that. Anyone with a little bit of rationality would not say something like that. And Liu Mo must have said that because he wanted to stall for time. Forget it, there's no point in keeping you. Ningyu took out the red demon sword, leaped up, and charged at Liu Mo. However, as Ningyu charged out, he transmitted his voice to Xiao Duanya and Song Shahao. Do you have the confidence to break the formation in a short period of time? Actually, Ningyu already knew that Liu Mo was stalling for time. He discussed the conditions with Liu Mo, on one hand, to beat him at his own game, and on the other to buy enough time for Xiao Duanya and Song Shahao to check if they could break the formation. Otherwise, with his ability, he would have killed Willow Fiend long ago. Why would he wait until now? The array formation looked relatively simple, but in reality, it was more difficult to crack. Ningyu's idea was that if Xiao Duanya and Song Shahao had a way to break through the formation, then he would immediately kill Liu Mo to prevent any accidents from happening. If Xiao Duanya and Song Shihao were unable to break through the formation, then he would spare Liu Mo's life and forcefully use a secret technique to devour the memories in his mind. Although it was dangerous to do so, Ningyu knew that he had no better way to break the array formation and leave. Half an hour. Both Xiao Duanya and Song Shihao had ugly expressions on their faces. Just now, when Ningyu and Liu Mo were talking, they carefully checked the formation again. After checking, they found that with their attainments in array formations, they would need at least 30 minutes to have a chance to break the array formation. No, it's been too long. Ningyu shook his head. He waved the red devil sword in his hand repeatedly and stabbed at Liu Mo. At present, there was only one way, and that was to trap Liu Mo and forcefully devour the memories in his mind. Although this method was difficult, the success rate was relatively high. This was a space, and they would encounter powerful spatial storms at any time. Staying here for half an hour meant that they would encounter danger at any time. Ningyu did not want to be killed by a spatial storm before being killed by a heavenly demon. Ningyu, even if I die, I will drag someone down with me. Seeing Ningyu charging at him at high speed and waving the red devil sword, Liu Mo let out a low roar, and his entire body shone with golden light. Golden light body. Liu Mo's constitution was not a mortal body, but a golden light body. The golden light body was a special constitution among the heavenly demons. Once it was used, one's battle prowess would instantly multiply. However, this kind of constitution had a flaw. Any martial artist who used the golden light body would either have their body shatter or die on the spot. Unless the strength of one's body reached the peak of the Celestial King realm, most people who used the golden light body would not have a good ending. At his peak, Liu Mo was only a peak late-stage Celestial King realm expert. The strength of his body was far from that of a peak Celestial King realm expert. This time, Liu Mo had used the golden light body because he had no other choice. Even if he could kill Ningyu, he would fall into an irrecoverable situation. You can be proud of yourself for forcing me to use the golden light body even if you die. Liu Mo's entire body shone with golden light. His fists shot out and fiercely punched the red devil sword that was slashing at him. Ding! Ding! When his fists and the red devil sword came into contact, a clear and crisp sound rang out. It seemed. The toughness of Liu Mo's fists was extremely terrifying. War God body. Ningyu knew how terrifying the golden light body was. He immediately activated his heart, and dark golden blood flowed throughout his body. His fists also shone with golden light, and they collided with Liu Mo's fists. You want to go head-on with the golden light body? I think you must have eaten a bear's heart. What? Seeing that Ningyu wanted to go head-on with him, Liu Mo snorted coldly and said fiercely. However, Liu Mo had only spoken halfway when his pupils shrank, and his face was filled with disbelief. Although the golden light body was terrifying, in this world, there were many physiques that could compete with it. Without a doubt. The physique that Ningyu had used could completely compete with the golden light body. War God body, Liu Mo said, almost gnashing his teeth. Although in terms of physique, the golden light body was not weaker than the war god body. However, the war god body's war god blood could completely suppress the golden light body's golden blood. As the saying goes, everything has its vanquisher. Even if the golden light body was extremely terrifying, it was difficult for it to gain an advantage when facing the war god body. It's not too late to know now. Ningyu punched out again and again. Every punch contained a terrifying dark golden blood, and it was impossible to avoid them as they struck Willow Demon's chest. Every punch hit flesh. Liu Mo's body was hit by Ningyu's punches, and his skin and flesh split open. Of course. But these were all secondary. Most importantly, when Ningyu's fist came into contact with Liu Mo's blood, a strange scene appeared. The blood in Liu Mo's body seemed to have gone out of control, and it surged toward Ningyu's fist without reservation. Pust. Before Ningyu could react, the blood flowed through his fist and entered his body. Then, it merged with his war god body's blood. Blood merging? Ningyu was still in a state of confusion. On the other side, Song Shihao, who was busy dissolving the formation, widened his eyes, and his face was filled with disbelief. What is blood merging? Xiao Duanya asked. Taking a deep breath, Song Shihao explained, the upper limit of the war god body is very high. In ancient times, it was known as the number one physique in the universe. Basically, no other physique could compete with it. After the Great War in ancient times, almost all the war god bodies fell. The remaining war god bodies have thin blood in their bodies, and their power is only 1/1000th of the war god body at its peak. Chapter 2438. Chapter 2438. Chapter 2438 Transformation Layer. What is the peak state? Xiao Duanya asked curiously. There are records in some ancient sects in the imperial region that the war god physique has a total of 10 forms. Song Shihao seemed to be reminiscing as he continued, first form of the war god to 10th form of the war god. If that Ning Yu swallowed Willow Demon's blood, would he be able to reach the first transformation of the war god? Xiao Duanya asked doubtfully. Song Shihao stared at Ning Yu for a while. Following this, he shook his head and said, the 10 forms of the divine god of battle is the ultimate form of the divine god of battle. Before that, there are still 3 minor stages. Only by breaking through the 3 minor stages can one achieve the first form of the divine god of battle. Even if it was in the imperial region, cultivators that were capable of attaining the first form of the war god transformation were existences that were as rare as phoenix feathers and Chilean horns, and every single one of them was an extraordinary genius that was a distinguished guest of the various powers. If my guess is correct, Ning Yu will only be able to reach the second of the 3 minor realms, the transformation realm, even if he completely devours Willow Devil's blood. The 3 minor realms were the first level and the translucent level, which was the level that Ning Yu had awakened his bloodline outside the immortal court. He had awakened the 10th level of his bloodline power and reached the peak of the translucent level. In order to cultivate the transformation level to its peak and enter the 3rd level, the body strengthening level, he would need to devour the blood of several physiques that were ranked in the top 100 in the universe. The Golden Light body was ranked 99th in the Myriad Heavens and Realms physique ranking. If Ning Yu swallowed the Golden Light body's blood, he could basically enter the transformation level. I can't accept this. While Song Shihao was still conversing with Xiao Duanya, the battle on the other side had already ended. Ning Yu forcefully devoured the blood within Willow Demon's body, turning Willow Demon's body into a skeleton. A late-stage celestial king was indeed extraordinary. If it was anyone else, they would definitely die on the spot if all the blood in their body was devoured. For Willow Demon to be able to say such harsh words before dying, it could be considered his ability. Kai. Ning Yu did not care about Willow Demon's life or death. At this time, his perception completely entered his body, watching the changes in his blood. Although his blood looked no different from before, Ning Yu knew very well that 1/10 of his blood had undergone a special change. Compared to the other blood, this blood was not just a little bit stronger. You could say so. Taking out his blood would basically allow a weak martial artist to directly cultivate to the Saint Immortal realm. Congratulations, the blood of the God of War body has entered the 2nd stage, the transformation stage. At this moment, Xiao Duanya and Song Shihao flew over. Song Shihao cupped his fists at Ning Yu. He first thanked Ning Yu for saving his life, and then said solemnly, the transformation level is very important for the Divine Warrior Constitution. I hope you don't expose your Divine Warrior Constitution in front of others. Otherwise, you might be killed. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. Ning Yu nodded. After the transformation of the war god's body, more memories appeared in Ning Yu's mind. According to those memories, he knew that the war god physique was the number one physique in the universe during the ancient times. All in all, the war god physique could not be exposed easily. I'm sorry, I couldn't take Willow Demon's life. Ning Yu apologized to Song Shihao. Song Shihao had said to capture him alive. At that time, the situation was urgent and did not allow him to think too much. Under those circumstances, he had no choice but to devour Willow Demon. I understand that. Song Shihao had no intention of blaming Ning Yu. He said, force out a drop of blood essence. I'm going to use your blood essence to break the formation. Swish. Ning Yu did not waste any time. He immediately forced out a drop of blood essence and threw it. Song Shahao leaped up and injected the blood essence that Ningyu had forced out into the formation. Crack, crack, crack. As the blood essence entered the array formation, a few of the eyes of the array formation actually let out a cracking sound and shattered on the spot. Rumble. Not long after, when a rumbling sound rang out, the formation left behind by Liu Mo was finally completely broken. Let's go. Song Shahao did not waste any time. The moment the formation left, he immediately dashed out and flew toward the outside. This was the inside of the space. If they stayed any longer, they might encounter a powerful spatial storm. Leaving was the best choice. Swish, swish, swish. Song Shahao was in front, while Xiao Duanya and Ningyu were behind. Because they were extremely fast, it only took them about 10 minutes to leave the space and reach the boundary of the immortal court. Ningyu, let me out. As soon as they left the space, Lin Lang's voice sounded in Ningyu's ears. Whoosh. Ningyu opened the red demon sword. Lin Lang, Yang Yuming, the Western Venerable, the Southern Venerable, and Tai Muqiang hurriedly left. Song Shahao glanced at the red demon sword and did not say anything. At the immortal king level, everyone basically had a treasure that could carry a person. It was not rare. What's going on? Ningyu looked at Lin Lang and asked. This is the territory of the Endless Sky Celestial Kingdom. I can sense that there are at most 3 days before the secret realm opens. Lin Lang did not hesitate and said directly, 3 days is just right to rush from here to the secret realm. So let's go there as soon as possible. Ningyu did not answer Lin Lang immediately. Previously, Ningyu was still curious about what kind of secret realm could make Lin Lang so interested. One had to know. Lin Lang was the prince of the Divine Wood Celestial Kingdom, and the strongest expert of the Divine Wood Celestial Kingdom was only a 5th stage half-step immortal king. How could a mere 5th stage half-step immortal king covet a secret realm? But now, Ningyu knew that he was wrong. The moment Lin Lang came out, he did not ask about the space. Instead, he shouted that he wanted to go to the secret realm of the Endless Sky Celestial Kingdom. This was enough to show that the secret realm of the Endless Sky Celestial Kingdom was very special, to a certain extent. Otherwise, Lin Lang would not be so interested. In fact, Ningyu was suspicious of Lin Lang's identity. Was he really a prince of the Divine Wood Celestial Kingdom? There was no reason for a prince of the Divine Wood Celestial Kingdom to behave so strangely. After thinking about it, Ningyu did not ask much. Everyone had secrets. It was not surprising that Lin Lang had some. Lin Lang did not have any ill intentions towards him, so he could not be bothered to ask about such trivial matters. I want to return to the headquarters of the 8 southern regions and report about the attack by the Skyfians. Song Shahao did not want to get involved in the matters of the secret realm. At this time, he only wanted to return to the headquarters of the 8 southern regions as soon as possible and understand the specific situation of the entrances to the other regions. Let's go together. Although the Southern Supremacy, Western Supremacy, and Tai Muqiang wanted to go to the secret realm very much, they could only choose to return with Song Shahao due to his presence. Xiao Duanya, follow Ningyu to that secret realm. Remember, anything can happen to anyone except Ningyu. Song Shahao glanced at the Western Supremacy and did not say anything. Instead, he transmitted his voice to Xiao Duanya. Ningyu had the war god body and had reached the transformation level. As long as he matured, he would definitely be of great help in the future. Chapter 2439. Chapter 2439. Chapter 2439. Spatial Teleportation Array Understood. Xiao Duanya's body trembled when he heard Song Shahao's voice transmission. Xiao Duanya was very clear. Strictly speaking, he was not Song Shahao's subordinate. He was just a cultivator chosen by 8 southern regions to guard the outer city. Song Shahao's clan ruled a large region in 8 southern regions. By relying on Song Shahao, he might even have the chance to reach the late-stage immortal king realm in the future. Swoosh. Song Shahao did not continue speaking. He leaped into the air and flew into the distance. Behind him, the Western Venerable, Southern Venerable, and Tai Muqiang followed closely. In truth, to Tai Muqiang and the Western Reverend, they really wanted to follow Ning Yu to the secret realm of the soaring sky immortal empire. However, they had no other choice because of their relationship with Song Shihao. After Song Shihao and the others left, Ning Yu turned to Lin Lang and asked, "Is there anything we need to pay attention to when we go to the secret realm?" "Pay attention?" Lin Lang was slightly startled, but he still answered, "The only thing we need to pay attention to is that after entering the secret realm, no matter how strong the cultivator is, his cultivation will be suppressed to the 5th stage half-step immortal king rel." Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. Obviously, Lin Lang's words moved him. His current cultivation was at the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm. He could easily fight against a mid-stage immortal king realm expert. Once he used the war god physique, his strength could completely kill a peak mid-stage immortal king realm expert. Under such circumstances, who could be his opponent in the secret realm? Let's go first and try to reach the entrance of the secret realm as soon as possible. Lin Lang did not want to waste too much time here. He stomped on the ground and searched for the direction of the secret realm. Even though Ning Yu had many doubts, he could only follow behind Lin Lang. He would ask them when they reached the secret realm. Yang Yuming originally wanted to return to his super celestial kingdom, but he was unwilling to give up on Ning Yu, a peerless genius. Helplessly, he could only choose to follow Ning Yu to the secret realm. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the dense forest, 3 figures sped past. Without a doubt, these 3 figures were none other than Ning Yu, Lin Lang, and the others who had just left the entrance of the immortal court. Because the distance to the secret realm of the soaring sky immortal empire was extremely far, the 3 of them decided to head to a nearby empire first before using a spatial teleportation array. The 3-day journey that Lin Lang mentioned was actually the time taken to use the teleportation array. Otherwise, if they were to rely on flying alone, it would take them at least 30 days to get there. After passing through this forest, the Cloudmang Immortal Empire is just ahead. Lin Lang pointed ahead and spoke, "The Cloudmang Immortal Empire is the same as the Soaring Sky Immortal Empire, both are mid-tier immortal empires. The strongest expert there is at least a 5th stage half-step immortal king. We will directly head to the capital city and think of a way to use the spatial teleportation array." Ning Yu shrugged non-committally. For Lin Lang to be so familiar with the task, it was clear that he was not as simple as the prince of the Divine Wood Immortal Kingdom. However, these things had little to do with Ning Yu. As long as Lin Lang wasn't a threat to him, he wouldn't make an enemy out of Lin Lang. After all, no matter what, they had fought side by side. Cloudmang Immortal Kingdom. In a mid-tier immortal empire, the strongest expert there was at least a 5th stage half-step immortal king. The capital city of the Cloudmang Immortal Empire was built more majestically and was huge. From afar, it looked like a giant coiling dragon. On both sides of the capital city's entrance, there were 2 giant stone lions erected. If anyone looked down on these 2 stone lions, they would definitely suffer a great loss. This was because they were the guardian stone lions of the Cloudmang Immortal Empire. Anyone who wanted to trespass into the capital city would be stopped by the stone lions. If it was light, they would be severely injured. If it was heavy, they would be killed. Whoosh. At this moment, Ning Yu and Lin Lang flew over from afar and stopped 1,000 meters away from the capital city of the Cloudmang Immortal Empire. Something's wrong. As soon as they stopped, Yang Yuming frowned slightly as though he had discovered something. "What's going on?" Ning Yu asked. In Ning Yu's opinion, Yang Yuming and Lin Lang were not simple. "I sensed Mo Qiong's aura in the Cloudmang city," Yang Yuming said in a deep voice. "Mo Qiong?" Ning Yu was stunned. Then, his face turned solemn. Previously, he had heard from Yang Yuming that Mo Qiong was also from a super immortal empire and had an immortal king following him. Since there were 2 entrances to the immortal court from Steep Cliff City, Mo Qiong might have entered from the other entrance. "Let's be careful," Yang Yuming continued. "Mo Qiong is a vengeful person. Because of you, he lost tens of thousands of 2-world stones to me. He will definitely take revenge. Moreover, I sensed 2 extremely terrifying auras in the Cloudmang city. One of them is equivalent to a mid-stage immortal king while the other is equivalent to a late-stage immortal king. They are even slightly stronger than Song Shihao at his peak. Swoosh. Upon hearing this, Ningyu's expression changed slightly. With his current strength, he could kill a peak mid-stage immortal king if he used all his trump cards. However, if he encountered a late-stage immortal king, he would not even have the chance to escape. There was a late-stage immortal king in the Cloudmang city? Then wouldn't it bode ill for him to go to the Cloudmang city? Let's go. While Ningyu was thinking, Yang Yuming had already walked towards the entrance of the Cloudmang city. Let's go too. Ningyu and Lin Lang glanced at each other before moving their feet to follow at Yang Yuming's sides. It did not take long. Ningyu and the others arrived at the entrance of the Cloudmang city. There was no special inspection, just a simple inquiry. Then, Ningyu and the others entered the Cloudmang city. Let's go to the teleportation pavilion. As soon as they entered the Cloudmang city, Lin Lang said, "The teleportation pavilion is very powerful and specializes in the teleportation business. If we want to go to the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom, we need to use the teleportation array of the teleportation pavilion." Ningyu glanced at Lin Lang but did not ask anything. Sure. Then, the three of them went straight to the teleportation pavilion. Where do you want to go? The hall of the teleportation pavilion was very grand. The person who received Ningyu and the others was a grey-robed old man who was half-stepped to the Immortal King realm. The grey-robed old man was honest. He did not look down on Ningyu and the others just because they were young. The Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom. Lin Lang went straight to the point and said, "The Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom?" The grey-robed old man frowned, clearly showing a difficult expression. Seeing the grey-robed old man's action, Ningyu said calmly, "Is the teleportation pavilion unable to reach the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom?" The teleportation pavilion is very powerful. There is no place in the entire 8 southern regions that cannot be reached. The grey-robed old man's brows relaxed as he said with a smile, "It's just that there are more people in the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom recently, so you might have to wait for a few days." "We're leaving today," Lin Lang said in a low voice. It would take 2 days to reach the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom by using the teleportation array. Once they reached the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom, they would need another day to reach the secret realm. Chapter 2440. Cloudy Mang Iron Guards. I'm sorry, I really can't today. The smile on the grey-robed old man's face gradually turned cold. "If you need it, you can register first. Once there's an empty spot, I will inform you immediately." At this moment, a young man dressed in white walked in with a folding fan in his hand. "Young Master Bai, what brings you here?" The grey-robed old man hurriedly greeted the white-robed young man with a smile. "Why didn't you inform me in advance? I would have sent someone to pick you up. Get ready, I'm going to the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom." Young Master Bai casually threw a spatial ring to the grey-robed old man and said indifferently, "You better arrange it for me immediately. I'm in a rush." "Yes." The grey-robed old man nodded and walked towards the back of the palace. Obviously, he was going to arrange a spatial teleportation array for young Master Bai. Swoosh. Lin Lang's figure flashed and blocked the grey-robed old man. "Why does he have a spot but we have to wait for a few days?" Lin Lang was extremely angry. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to use the spatial teleportation array, he would have already punished the grey-robed old man. Young Master Bai is the crown prince of the Cloudy Mang Immortal Kingdom, a 5th stage half-step immortal king. If he wants to use the spatial teleportation array, of course there's a spot. The grey-robed old man said proudly. 5th stage half-step immortal king? Hearing this, Ningyu started to carefully examine young Master Bai. This caused Ningyu to be slightly surprised. The Cloudy Mang Immortal Kingdom was only a mid-level immortal kingdom, and the strongest cultivator was a 5th stage half-step immortal king. It didn't make sense for a crown prince to be a 5th stage half-step immortal king. This didn't make sense. "What, you're not convinced?" Young Master Bai waved the folding fan in his hand and said to Lin Lang, "I'm a 5th stage half-step immortal king, and you're a 1st stage half-step immortal king. I really don't understand where you get the confidence to fight with me for the spatial teleportation array. Look, someone is fighting with young Master Bai. Young Master Bai is a 5th stage half-step immortal king. Fighting with him is tantamount to courting death. Hehe, this is going to be a good show. Isn't that so? 3 months ago, young Master Bai suddenly rose to prominence, and his cultivation rose from the 1st level of the half-step immortal king realm to the 5th level of the half-step immortal king realm. He's extremely outstanding, and he directly replaced the previous crown prince to become the new crown prince of the Cloudmang Immortal Empire. Young Master Bai is a man who seeks revenge for the smallest grievance. These fellows who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth dare to offend young Master Bai. In my opinion, they are destined to die. In the main hall of the teleportation pavilion. Everyone saw that Lin Lang and young Master Bai were in a dispute, and they all revealed the expressions of spectators. What's so great about a 5th stage half-step immortal king? Lin Lang had yet to respond. A young man in black next to them curled his lips and said, a 5th stage half-step celestial king who forcefully improved his cultivation by consuming medicinal pills. His strength is equivalent to a 2nd stage half-step celestial king at most. The black-clothed man's words clearly caused young Master Bai's expression to turn extremely ugly. He had indeed consumed pills to raise his cultivation to the 5th stage half-step immortal king stage. However, this was his taboo. If anyone dared to use this to mock him, they would definitely not have a good ending. Young Master Bai stared coldly at the black-clothed man and said fiercely, kneel down and kowtow to me to admit your mistake. Otherwise, I will take your life. Hehe. If you want me to kowtow to you and admit my mistake, you need to have the strength to do so. The black-clothed man smiled faintly and said, you're courting death. Young Master Bai stomped his feet on the ground and immediately rushed out, rushing toward the black-clothed man. Swoosh. However, young Master Bai had just arrived in front of the black-clothed man when the black-clothed man turned into a shadow and disappeared. Bang! With a backhand punch, the black-clothed man bombarded young Master Bai's back, causing him to retreat several feet. I got it. Seeing the black-clothed man and young Master Bai fighting, Ningyu suddenly understood. Just now, he had been suspecting young Master Bai's identity. But now, he was almost certain that young Master Bai was definitely related to a heavenly demon. In other words, young Master Bai might not be a heavenly demon, but the fact that he could improve his cultivation to the 5th stage half-step immortal king stage was definitely related to a heavenly demon. Who are you? Young Master Bai looked coldly at the black-clothed man and said in a low voice, this is Cloudymang City. If you dare to behave atrociously again, I will immediately mobilize the Cloudymang City Iron Guards and take you down. He could see that. Young Master Bai was already beyond furious. However, through the hasty exchange just now, young Master Bai judged that he was no match for the black-clothed man, so he could only resort to using threats. Cloudymang City Iron Guards, a motley crew. The black-clothed man shrugged, then turned to look at the grey-clothed old man and said, prepare a position for me. I want to go to the soaring sky immortal kingdom. Cloudymang Iron Guards. Young Master Bai clenched his fists and shouted. Swoosh. As young Master Bai's words fell, several figures suddenly appeared in the surroundings. These figures were the Cloudymang Iron Guards. Heavenly demons. As soon as the Cloudymang Iron Guards appeared, Ningyu confirmed the judgment in his heart. Because the Cloudymang Iron Guards were not humans, but heavenly demons, genuine heavenly demons. Didn't they say that only one large region in the 8 southern regions was breached by heavenly demons? Ningyu was a little puzzled. Song Shihao had told him that there was only one entrance to the immortal court in the 8 southern regions that had been breached. And the Cloudymang Immortal Kingdom was located within the range of the entrance to the large region where Song Shihao was. Logically speaking, even if heavenly demons breached the entrance, they would not be able to infiltrate here so quickly. Could it be that heavenly demons have long entered the immortal court, and the 108 regions joined forces this time to deceive people? Ningyu frowned and thought to himself. Go, take down this arrogant man. Young Master Bai waved his hand and pointed at the black-clothed man, saying, I will reward anyone who can kill him with 10,000 two-realm stone. Boom. Hearing young Master Bai's words, the other martial artists in the hall even wanted to attack. Haha, as I said, you are just a motley crew. The black-clothed man did not panic at all. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up into an arc swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Immediately after, he waved his wrist, and in an instant, several fist lights swept out. These fist lights then split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. In an instant, the entire hall was filled with cold light. Bang, bang, bang. The cloudy Mang iron guards that young Master Bai had called over were defeated by the black-clothed man in just one exchange. Of course. The black-clothed man did not kill the cloudy Mang iron guards, but seriously injured them. Young Master Bai's face was extremely gloomy. Since he had reached the 5th phase of half-step to Immortal King, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? He took a deep breath, bowed to the void, and said in a clear voice, "Please show yourself, King Pingling." Crack. The moment young Master Bai's voice fell, the void cracked. Then, a martial artist with a flat top slowly walked out of the void. It's him. Seeing the flat-top martial artist, the others did not have any reaction, but Yang Yuming, who was next to Ningyu, had an ugly expression. Chapter 2441. Chapter 2441. Chapter 241. Lick King. I didn't expect to meet young Master Yang here. After King Pingling appeared, he didn't look at young Master Bai or the black-robed man. Instead, he fixed his eyes on Yang Yuming. "Where is Mo Qiong? Ask him to come out and see me," Yang Yuming said in a deep voice with a cold face. "Haha, young master is busy and has no time to see you." King Pingling smiled and said, "If young Master Yang insists on seeing young master, I can take you there." "King Pingling, please take care of this rascal," young Master Bai hurriedly reminded when he saw that the cultivator with the flat-top haircut didn't attack the black-robed man. Humph. King Pingling casually waved a cold light and knocked young Master Bai back several feet. He snorted and said, "You'd better not speak when you shouldn't, or you will easily get yourself killed." "Yes." Young Master Bai got up from the ground and answered immediately, even though he was spitting blood. "Young Master Yang, I'll take care of the trouble in front of me first. I'll catch up with you later." King Pingling first showed an apologetic look to young Master Yang, then looked at the black-robed man and said, "Kill yourself, so that I can leave your body intact." "Haha, you want me to kill myself?" The black-robed man obviously didn't take King Pingling seriously. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he said with a faint smile, "Trash who hasn't even reached the middle stage of Immortal King deserves to talk to me like this. You're courting death." King Pingling flew into a rage. He was at the peak of the early stage of Immortal King and extremely powerful. In his opinion, the black-robed man was just a 5th stage half-step Immortal King. A 5th stage half-step Immortal King called him, an early stage Immortal King, a good-for-nothing. Even if his aunt could tolerate it, his uncle couldn't. In a flash, King Pingling came in front of the black-robed man and punched out with violent energy. The black-robed man didn't want to be outdone. He also clenched his right fist and punched out. Bang! The two fists collided. Countless shockwaves spread out in all directions. Clatter. Ningyu casually waved his hand and easily blocked the shockwaves. Most people in the hall didn't notice Ningyu's little move. Their eyes were almost fixed on King Pingling and the black-robed man. Boom. After one move, King Pingling attacked again, launching a barrage of attacks at the black-clad man. Could it be that Mo Qiong and the rest are also involved with the heavenly demons? Yang Yuming frowned slightly. Like Ningyu, he had already determined that the cloudy Mang Iron Guards were extraterrestrial demons. King Pingling was very close to the celestial demons, so it was very likely that he had joined the celestial demons. However, there was one thing that Yang Yuming did not understand. Mo Qiong was someone from a super-immortal nation. Did he know that his subordinates were in cahoots with the heavenly demons? It would be fine if he didn't know, but once he did, the consequences would be unimaginable, because it meant that a super-celestial kingdom had already been infiltrated by the heavenly demons. You should know. In the 8 southern regions, Although a super celestial empire wasn't the strongest power, it was enough to shake the foundations of a large region. If the super immortal kingdom that Mo Qiong was in had already been infiltrated by the heavenly demons, or even controlled by them, then the entire 8 southern regions would probably have traces of the heavenly demon. Bang! Bang! While Yang Yuming was still deep in thought, the battle between the black-robed man and King Pingling had already ended. It wasn't that a victor had been decided, but that a stooped old man had appeared at the entrance of the teleportation pavilion. Seeing the old man, Ningyu was shocked. The old man's cultivation was not at the early stage of the immortal king realm, but at the peak of the middle stage immortal king realm. Although Ningyu could defeat an expert with such strength, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Because the old man was only a thin line away from the late stage immortal king realm. If he wanted to, he could advance to the late stage immortal king realm at any time. Greetings, Lick King. Seeing the old man appear, King Pingling was delighted and hurriedly greeted him. Just now, when he fought with the black-robed man, King Pingling had already judged the opponent's strength. If he fought head-on, he might not be able to get the upper hand, and he might even be killed by the opponent. Now that the Lick King had appeared, the black-robed man would definitely suffer. There was no other reason. The Lick King was a super expert under Mo Qiong's command, infinitely close to the late-stage immortal king realm. When such a peerless expert attacked, the black-robed man might not even be able to resist one move. What's going on? The Lick King didn't attack directly. He looked at King Pingling calmly and asked, "Young master didn't ask you to come here to stand up for this trash." Plop. Hearing the Lick King's words, King Pingling knelt on the ground in fear. He knew the Lick King's character very well. Anyone who offended the Lick King would not have a good ending. "I was wrong. Please give me another chance, Lick King." King Pingling kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. "I'll do it right away. Go ahead. I hope you won't let young master down," the Lick King said lightly. "Thank you, Lick King." King Pingling hurriedly thanked him, then got up and walked toward the inner hall of the teleportation pavilion. When King Pingling disappeared, the Lick King said to the black-robed man, "Third Prince, since you're here, why don't you go and see young master?" "No need. I have nothing to see Mo Qiong." The black-robed man said calmly, "Go back and tell Mo Qiong that I'll definitely get back what I lost." "That's not up to you." The Lick King's face turned cold, and then he reached out his right hand and grabbed at the black-robed man. "You can't catch me." The black-robed man took out a scroll from his bosom and activated it. Rumble. In an instant, the void cracked open, and the black-robed man jumped into the crack in front of the Lick King. "You want to leave?" The Lick King seemed to have guessed that the black-robed man would do this. He grabbed at the void with his right hand, and suddenly a cold light appeared and was thrown into the crack. Poochie. Not long after, the black-robed man was knocked out of the void, spitting out a mouthful of blood and looking pale. "You." The black-robed man stared at the Lick King in disbelief and exclaimed, "How is this possible?" "Nothing is impossible. Third Prince, come with me. I believe the young master will spare your life on account of the fact that you two are brothers." The Lick King's expression did not change much. He said indifferently, "You should know that the other princes have all submitted to young master. In the near future, young master will inherit the throne of the emperor." Crack, crack. The black-robed man clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. In fact, before he came here, he had already prepared how to escape. Who would have thought? The Lick King's strength had soared to such a level, and he had mastered a spatial secret technique. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to escape using the scroll. "Young Master Yang, why don't you come with me?" After defeating the black-robed man, the Lick King turned to look at Yang Yuming and said, "Young master has been missing you ever since we parted at Cliffside City." Humph. Yang Yuming snorted coldly and shifted his gaze to Ningyu. Yang Yuming knew the current situation. Unless Ningyu made a move, he would definitely be taken away by the Lick King. However, he was not very sure. Chapter 2442. Chapter 2442. Chapter 2442. Unfavorable. The Lick King followed Yang Yuming's gaze and saw the extremely calm Ningyu. To be honest, Ningyu's reaction made the Lich King a little puzzled. Because Ningyu was only a 5th phase half-step Celestial King, while he was a peak intermediate Celestial King. Logically, a 5th phase half-step Celestial King should not have such an expression when he saw a peak intermediate Celestial King. Unless this 5th phase half-step Celestial King had a way to protect his life, so he was not afraid of a peak intermediate Celestial King expert. Interesting. The Lich King sized up Ningyu, then said, "You are not weak. Come with me to see the young master." Swoosh. As he spoke, the Lich King extended his right hand, wanting to grab Ningyu. Bang. However, just as the Lich King's palm was about to touch Ningyu, Xiao Duanya suddenly attacked, punching towards the Lich King's fist. Song Shihao had once said, no matter what, he had to ensure Ningyu's safety. So, seeing the Lich King attack, Xiao Duanya would help Ningyu without any hesitation. You overestimate yourself. The Lich King's expression turned cold, and he gave up on Ningyu. Golden light flashed on his fist, and he punched towards Xiao Duanya. In an instant, the Lich King's fist collided with Xiao Duanya's fist. The two fists collided. The Lich King stood where he was without moving, while Xiao Duanya flew out in a straight line. Swoosh. Seeing that Xiao Duanya was about to hit the ground, a shadow darted out and caught him firmly. Obviously, the martial artist who caught Xiao Duanya was none other than Ningyu. Ningyu was not a heartless person. Although he did not need Xiao Duanya's help, no matter what, Xiao Duanya was injured by the Lich King because of him. Good lad, your strength is indeed terrifying. The Lich King did not care about Xiao Duanya's life or death. He looked coldly at Ningyu and said in a low voice, I will still say the same thing. Come with me to see the young master. I can plead with the young master to spare your wretched life. Others might not know. However, the Lich King knew it very well. When they were exchanging blows just now, he had secretly left a force on Xiao Duanya's body. The force that he had left behind was enough to kill an ordinary peak early immortal king martial artist. The fact that Ningyu was able to break the force that he had left behind so easily showed that Ningyu's strength had far surpassed the peak of the early immortal king stage. He could even fight against an intermediate immortal king stage expert. However, in the eyes of the Lich King, even though Ningyu's strength had reached the intermediate stage of the immortal king stage, he was still not afraid. Are you alright? Ningyu placed Xiao Duanya on the ground, then threw him an energy stone. Xiao Duanya did not stand on ceremony. He took the energy stone and immediately threw it into his mouth. Catcher. The moment the energy stone entered his mouth, it turned into majestic energy and flowed into Xiao Duanya's abdomen through his throat. With the help of this terrifying energy, Xiao Duanya very quickly recovered to his peak state. I'm fine. Xiao Duanya took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I can still fight. Ha ha ha. The Lich King seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He raised his head and laughed wildly, saying, against you, I can kill you with one hand. Go and rest first. Ningyu patted Xiao Duanya's shoulder and secretly transmitted his voice, pay attention to protect Yang Yuming and Lin Lang. Ningyu did not have any fear towards a simple Lich King. The only thing that made Ningyu feel fear was the indistinct aura in the void. The Lich King only had the cultivation of a peak intermediate stage immortal king stage expert. However, the indistinct aura in the void seemed to be that of a late stage immortal king stage expert. And this was the reason why Ningyu did not fight the Lich King with his life at the first instance. Have you thought it through? Just as Ningyu was thinking, the Lich King's voice sounded in his ears. Not much. Ningyu collected his thoughts and revealed an arrogant expression. He said proudly, against you, I can also kill you with one hand. You're courting death. The Lich King was completely infuriated by Ningyu. He raised his head and roared. His feet stepped on the ground and his body instantly darted out. This time, the Lich King was even faster. He only used a second to reach in front of Ningyu. He raised his right leg and kicked at Ningyu's head. Bang! Facing the Lich King's attack, Ningyu was calm. He raised his right arm and unavoidably collided with the Lich King's right leg. Arm collided with leg. No matter how one looked at it, Ningyu did not have the upper hand. However, the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Ningyu and the Lich King retreated several jong at the same time. In this move, neither side gained the upper hand. Damn it, how can he be so strong? After one move, the Lich King did not continue to attack, but his face was very ugly. Previously, he knew that Ningyu was strong, but he did not expect it to be this strong. In a one-on-one fight, if he wanted to win, the probability was only 50%. In other words, if no outsider intervened, he could only continue to tangle with Ningyu today. However, the Lich King was thinking about how to fight with Ningyu, and Ningyu was also thinking about how to fight with him. The difference between them was that the Lich King was thinking about how to defeat Ningyu, while Ningyu was thinking about how to stall for time so that he could judge whether the expert in the void was a friend or foe. If the expert in the void was a friend, then Ningyu would not hesitate to attack and kill the Lich King. However, if the expert in the void was an enemy, then Ningyu would escape immediately without hesitation. Ningyu, can you give me an energy stone? At this moment, a voice rang in Ningyu's ears. The martial artist who spoke was none other than the black-robed man. With just an energy stone, I can contact a helper who is thousands of miles away and ask him to come to our rescue. Seeing that Ningyu did not respond to him, the black-robed man hurriedly said, Mo Qiong has a late-stage immortal king expert with him. If there is no helper, both of us will die. Ningyu glanced at the black-robed man and said lightly, Why should I believe you? Although the situation was very dangerous, Ningyu did not give the energy stone to the black-robed man immediately. Perhaps if he gave the energy stone to the black-robed man could invite a late-stage immortal king helper. However, who knew if the black-robed man would turn against him after the matter was done? If he defeated the Lich King and the rest, then he would have to face a new force. Wouldn't that be very dangerous? I can open my mind and let you control it. The black-robed man was very afraid that Ningyu would reject him. He opened his mind and said, Besides, as long as you help me this time, I can give you a large number of 2 realm stones. Sure. After thinking for a while, Ningyu separated a bit of soul power and entered the black-robed man's body. Swoosh. Subsequently, Ningyu shook his wrist and threw an energy stone to the black-robed man. Crack. After catching the energy stone, the black-robed man did not hesitate and crushed it. At the same time, he used a secret skill to contact a helper who was thousands of miles away. Third Prince, isn't it a little inappropriate for you to do this? However, Chapter 2443. Chapter 2443. Chapter 2443. The last radiance of setting sun Ka. As the faint voice rang out, the void suddenly split open. Then, an old man in brown clothes slowly appeared before everyone's eyes. Hiss. As soon as the brown-robed old man appeared, everyone around sucked in a cold breath. Late-stage immortal king. The brown-robed old man's cultivation was a level higher than the Lich King's. He had reached the terrifying late-stage celestial king realm. It's you. Seeing the brown-robed old man, the black-robed man's face instantly turned cold. The super-immortal kingdom he was in was called the Dragon War Empire. Dragon War Empire has a total of 10 princes, and each prince has a lot of powerful people behind him to support him. The brown-robed elder in front of him was the supporter behind the third prince, Mo Qiong. His name was Zhao Feiyu. Zhao Feiyu's strength was enough to rank in the top 3 among all the prince's supporters. This time, he had secretly gone to the Cloudy Mang Celestial Kingdom to investigate whether Mo Qiong had colluded with the heavenly demons. Once he found evidence, he could easily overthrow Mo Qiong. Third Prince, don't waste your energy. I've already set up a formation in the surroundings. You're dreaming if you want to spread the news. The corner of Zhao Feiyu's lips curled up into a smile. He softly said, Let me give you a piece of advice. Open up your mind. Or else, I will teach you the meaning of cruelty. Boom. While they were speaking, Zhao Feiyu unleashed his aura and frantically pressed against the black-clothed man. Ka. Under the pressure of Zhao Feiyu's terrifying aura, a crisp sound came from the black-clothed man's knees, and beads of sweat continuously dripped from his forehead. Mo Xiao, don't think that just because I called you the third prince, you'll become arrogant. Today, you'll have to surrender even if you don't want to. Zhao Feiyu moved his feet and walked towards the man in black. Dong dong dong. Although Zhao Feiyu's speed was very slow, in Mo Xiao's eyes, it was very fast. I am the third prince of the Dragon War Empire, you dare to kill me. It was a critical moment. Mo Xiao took out a token from his bosom and said coldly, this token was given to me by Imperial Father. As long as you kill me, Imperial Father will know immediately. Damn it. Zhao Feiyu's face turned ugly when he saw the token in Mo Xiao's hand. Dragon War Empire had a total of 10 princes. The Sovereign Emperor secretly sent out 3 tokens. Originally, Zhao Feiyu thought that it was impossible for Mo Xiao to have a token. But now, he realized that he was wrong. The token on Mo Xiao meant that he couldn't kill Mo Xiao. At most, he could only imprison him. Once he forcibly killed Mo Xiao, the consequences would be unimaginable. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Feiyu coldly looked at Mo Xiao and said in a deep voice, I've underestimated you, Lick King. Here. The Lick King immediately came before Zhao Feiyu, cupped his fists, and said, what instructions does Lord Zhao have? Capture Mo Xiao and lock him in the Cloudmang dungeon. Zhao Feiyu said coldly. Yes. The Lick King stomped on the ground and immediately arrived in front of Mo Xiao. He grabbed Mo Xiao's shoulder and fled into the distance. Ning Yu looked on coldly and had no intention of interfering. Ning Yu was very clear about his own strength. He could kill the Lick King without expending too much energy. However, against Zhao Feiyu, who was at the late Immortal King stage, there was only death awaiting him. Even if he used the bloodline of the war god physique, there was absolutely no possibility of him winning. Moreover, even if he wanted to save Mo Xiao, he was powerless even if he wanted to. After the Lick King took Mo Xiao away, Zhao Feiyu shifted his gaze to Ning Yu. You're not weak. Are you interested in following me and working for me? Zhao Feiyu had seen the battle between Ning Yu and the Lick King, so he knew that Ning Yu was very strong. Now, Mo Qiong was short of manpower. If he could get a beneficial helper like Ning Yu, then he would have less pressure in the upcoming battle for the Crown Prince position. Do I have a choice? Ning Yu smiled bitterly and said, I don't mind following you and working for you, but in my opinion, Mo Qiong should mind. It's okay. Zhao Feiyu waved his hand and said, Young master is magnanimous. I already know about your encounter with him in Broken Cliff City. With my persuasion, young master will definitely accept you. In that case, many thanks. Ning Yu cupped his fists at Zhao Feiyu. In this situation, Ning Yu actually had no other choice. Either submit to Zhao Feiyu or be killed by Zhao Feiyu. Or in other words, he could immediately cultivate the war god body to the body strengthening level. In this case, he still had the ability to fight with Zhao Feiyu. Let's go, follow me. Not good. Zhao Feiyu nodded and was about to instruct Ning Yu to follow him when his expression changed drastically. Lick King. Without much time to think, Zhao Feiyu immediately sent a voice transmission to the Lick King. Come back quickly and look after Ning Yu and the others for me. Young master is in trouble, I have to go and save him. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Feiyu immediately jumped up, tore the void and went in. Voila. As soon as Zhao Feiyu left, the Lick King and Mo Xiao appeared in front of everyone. Young master is in trouble. Ning Yu frowned slightly. He was not sure if this was Zhao Feiyu's test. Therefore, he did not act rashly for the time being. Instead, he stayed where he was. Ning Yu, Zhao Feiyu has left. Do you have a way to kill the Lick King? Ning Yu had concerns, but Mo Xiao did not. He immediately sent a voice transmission to Ning Yu, kill the Lick King and then help me break the surrounding formation. I will immediately contact the helpers thousands of miles away. No problem. Ning Yu unleashed his perception, probing the surroundings for a moment before saying heavily. Ning Yu did not help Mo Xiao just now because he knew that he was no match for Zhao Feiyu. After his probe, he had basically confirmed that Zhao Feiyu had left. A simple Lick King could not pose any threat to him. Swish. Swish. Ning Yu did not hesitate. He stepped on the ground and immediately rushed toward the Lich King. At the same time, he took out another energy stone and threw it at Mo Xiao. Ningyu gathered all the energy in his body on the red demon sword and slashed backward. Ningyu used 100% of his strength in this slash. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit, let alone the Lich King who was at the peak of the intermediate Celestial King realm. Small fry. Oh no. The Lich King wanted to mock Ningyu, but when he sensed the terrifying energy stone on the red demon sword, his expression changed drastically and he wanted to retreat. However, it was obviously too late for the Lich King to retreat now. He had just retreated a few steps when Ningyu appeared in front of him with the red demon sword and blocked his way. Swoosh. Ningyu did not hold back. He held the red demon sword and stabbed the Lich King's heart. In an instant, the Lich King's heart was pierced and blood flowed out. After his heart was pierced, the Lich King did not die immediately. Instead, his mouth was slightly open, and his face was full of disbelief. He was a peerless expert at the peak of the intermediate Celestial King realm. He could even fight against a late-stage Celestial King realm martial artist. Now that he was killed by a 5th-stage Celestial King, how could he accept this? Die. Chapter 2444. Chapter 2444. Chapter 2444 Hold something back. Kai. Reality proved that the power of the final radiance of the setting sun was extremely powerful. The void in front of the Lich King split open, and countless spatial fragments spread out in all directions. Kill. In the face of the Lich King's attack before his death, Ningyu's expression didn't change much. He waved the red demon sword again, unleashing a terrifying sword projection. Hualala. The sword light grew larger and larger until it finally collided with the countless spatial fragments. The huge sword light engulfed the spatial fragments almost instantly. I can't accept this. The Lich King's face became slightly ferocious. In the end, he couldn't figure out why he, a peak intermediate immortal king, couldn't kill Ningyu who was a 5th-stage half-step immortal king. Of course. He would never be able to understand this in his next life. After killing the Lich King, Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief. Although he looked relaxed, the actual situation was extremely dangerous. The Lich King's counterattack before his death was enough to kill an ordinary late immortal king expert. If Ningyu did not possess a treasure like the red demon sword, he would have been killed by the Lich King long ago. As its level increased, the secrets within the red demon sword were gradually revealed. After killing the Lich King, Ningyu did not devour him. Instead, he left him for the red demon sword. Kai. The Red Fiend devoured the Lich King very quickly. With his cooperation with the Red Fiend, it only took a minute for the Lich King to be completely devoured. Although the Lich King was an intermediate immortal king expert, the energy contained in his body was comparable to an ordinary advanced immortal king expert. After the red demon sword had devoured the Lich King, its rank had directly soared from the Celestial King intermediate stage to the Celestial King advanced stage. Help me break the formation. As soon as Ningyu killed the Lich King, Mo Xiao shouted from the other side, I can feel another expert coming this way. No problem. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He waved the red demon sword in his hand repeatedly, and several sword rays shot out, blasting at the formation around him. Catcher. The array formation set up by Zhao Feiyu was indeed very powerful. Fortunately, Zhao Feiyu was not here. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Ningyu to break the formation with his strength alone. As soon as Ningyu broke the formation, Mo Xiao used a secret technique to contact the helpers thousands of miles away. How long will it take? Seeing Mo Xiao's relieved expression, Ningyu couldn't help but ask. Ningyu knew this better than anyone else. Even though Zhao Feiyu had left due to some matters, as long as he wanted to come back, he could return in less than 3 seconds. 30 seconds. Mo Xiao said in a deep voice. For a late-stage immortal king, a distance of 1,000 miles could be covered in a few leaps. After all, they all understood the Tao of space. His attainments in the field of space would not be too weak. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. 30 seconds wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. For Mo Xiao, these 30 seconds were a torment. He was afraid that Zhao Feiyu would come back. One had to know. Once Zhao Feiyu came back, even if he contacted the helpers thousands of miles away, it was destined to be useless. Hurry up, hurry up. Mo Xiao clenched his fists and said to himself. Catcher. Just as Mo Xiao was secretly praying, the void suddenly cracked and a familiar figure appeared in front of everyone. Zhao Feiyu. This figure was not the helper that Mo Xiao invited, but Zhao Feiyu. Damn it. Seeing Zhao Feiyu, Mo Xiao's face instantly turned cold. It's too late. This was Mo Xiao's first thought. Where's the Lich King? After appearing, Zhao Feiyu did not attack Mo Xiao immediately. Instead, he looked around and said doubtfully, "Didn't I ask him to come over and watch you?" "Sorry," Ningyu shrugged and said, "The Lich King was disrespectful to me and has been killed by me." What? Zhao Feiyu's face changed dramatically and his face was full of disbelief. The Lich King's cultivation was at the peak of the middle stage Celestial King realm, only one step away from the late stage Celestial King realm. Ningyu was only a 5th stage half-step Celestial King. Moreover, the combat power that he had displayed just now was completely impossible to kill the Lich King. "I hope he comes soon," Ningyu prayed secretly, then looked at Zhao Feiyu and said indifferently, "The Lich King was disrespectful to me and was killed by me. You're courting death." Zhao Feiyu's face was extremely cold. He had only left for a minute or two and found that the Lich King had been killed when he returned. This matter was indeed a little unimaginable. "I can't let you live." Zhao Feiyu stared at Ningyu coldly and said coldly, "I originally wanted to spare your life, but now it seems that I can only send you to hell." As soon as he said the word hell, Zhao Feiyu's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Ningyu. He clenched his right hand and suddenly punched. Catcher, catcher, catcher. Zhao Feiyu's punch was very powerful. The void in front of Ningyu cracked rhythmically. At the critical moment, Ningyu injected all the energy in his body into his fist, and it collided with Zhao Feiyu's fist with no way to avoid it. This collision. Like a kite with a broken string, Ningyu flew backward in a straight line. Fortunately, Ningyu took out an energy stone in time and threw it into his mouth to recover. Otherwise, Zhao Feiyu's punch was enough to make him lose his combat power. "Humph. You overestimate yourself." Zhao Feiyu snorted coldly and said, "Hand over the Lich King. Otherwise, I'll exterminate your 9 generations." Whose 9 generations do you want to exterminate? However, as soon as Zhao Feiyu's cold words sounded, an indifferent voice came from the void. "Elder Guo." Hearing this familiar voice, Mo Xiao revealed a look of ecstasy. "Guo Sheng." Zhao Feiyu's face turned a little ugly. He naturally knew who the owner of the voice was. The supporter behind Mo Xiao, the late-stage Celestial King expert, Guo Sheng. Strictly speaking, compared to Guo Sheng, his strength was still a little weaker. Now that Guo Sheng had appeared, things immediately became complicated and confusing. Hee. Guo Sheng came out of the void and landed beside Mo Xiao. Pa. He stretched out his right hand and poked Mo Xiao's body a few times. Suddenly, Guo Sheng's face turned cold. Because he discovered that there was a soul force in Mo Xiao's body. That soul force could control Mo Xiao's life and death. "It's you." Guo Sheng did not look at Zhao Feiyu. Instead, his eyes slowly moved around the crowd and finally landed on Ningyu. He said, "Who gave you the courage to control the third prince?" "I did not do anything wrong." Guo Sheng's actions made Ningyu secretly rejoice. Fortunately, he left a soul force in Mo Xiao's body, allowing him to control Mo Xiao's life and death. Otherwise, after Guo Sheng saved Mo Xiao, he would definitely face Zhao Feiyu. "I'll give myself the courage." Ningyu stood up from the ground, patted his clothes, and said, "Mo Xiao, come here." Hearing Ningyu's words, Mo Xiao revealed a hesitant expression. Chapter 2445. Chapter 2445. Chapter 2445 continued to transform Third Prince. Seeing Mo Xiao walking towards Ningyu, Guosheng's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, "I can suppress the soul force in your body." Whoosh. While they were talking, Guosheng's figure flashed and he immediately appeared in front of Mo Xiao. He stretched out his right hand and patted Mo Xiao's shoulder. A force entered Mo Xiao's body through his shoulder and began to fight against the soul force that Ningyu had left in Mo Xiao's body. Fart. However, although Guosheng was a late-stage immortal king, his force did not gain any advantage against Ningyu's soul force. On the contrary, the violent collision caused Mo Xiao to spit out blood and his face turned pale. Oh no! Mo Xiao's miserable state caused Guosheng's expression to change slightly and he immediately stopped the input of force. Then, Guosheng took out an elixir and threw it into Mo Xiao's mouth. Crack! The elixir melted in Mo Xiao's mouth and went down his throat to his abdomen, slowly healing his injuries. Phew! Seeing this, Guosheng could not help but let out a long sigh. At this moment, he felt a little lucky. Fortunately, the force just now was not too powerful. Otherwise, the power of the backlash alone would be enough to kill Mo Xiao. I'll give you one last chance. Guosheng protected Mo Xiao behind him and looked at Ningyu coldly. Give up your control over the third prince, or I'll let you know what cruelty is. Actually, I'm a little curious. Ningyu did not directly answer Guosheng's words. Instead, he shrugged and said calmly, "You know that I have absolute control over Mo Xiao, yet you still insist on stopping Mo Xiao from coming over. Could it be that you have a deep grudge against Mo Xiao?" Actually, it was no wonder that Ningyu thought so. Guosheng's method was indeed a little special. This was also Ningyu's way of doing things. If it was anyone else, Mo Xiao would have already paid the price. That's right. At this moment, Zhao Feiyu, who was at the side, nodded and said, "Guosheng's actions are indeed somewhat unkind. However, according to the results of my investigation, Guosheng and the third prince have not been on good terms for a long time. Now that he's protecting the third prince, it's possible that he's using someone else to do his dirty work." You. Guosheng was so angry that his nose became crooked. The reason why he stopped Mo Xiao was because he was afraid that Mo Xiao would be controlled by Ningyu. In the end, from Ningyu and Zhao Feiyu's mouths, it was said that he was not on good terms with the third prince and wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. This pot. He refused to carry it. "Mo Xiao, you still have." Ningyu stretched out 3 fingers and said, 3 seconds to come over." Elder Guo, please wait a moment." Mo Xiao gritted his teeth, stomped on the ground, and rushed toward Ningyu. Guosheng might be stupid, but Mo Xiao wasn't. He knew it better than anyone else. On the surface, Ningyu didn't look angry, but in fact, he was not. If he couldn't reach Ningyu within 3 seconds, then his fate was doomed. Even if he didn't die, he would be sucked dry. Damn it! Guosheng clenched his fists, and his whole body was trembling with anger. Really boring. Zhao Feiyu glanced at Guosheng and said, "Old Guo, as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. What's more, you and I are both from the Dragon War Empire. We should unite and kill Ningyu first." "Get lost." Guosheng shouted at Zhao Feiyu, and then stared at Mo Xiao and Ningyu, for fear that Ningyu would do something bad to Mo Xiao. "Very good." Looking at Mo Xiao in front of him, Ningyu said, "You should know that controlling you is really a helpless act." "Understood." Mo Xiao nodded, indicating that he understood. "Can Guosheng kill Zhao Feiyu?" Ningyu didn't say much to Mo Xiao. His soul force surged and transmitted a message. What Ningyu was most worried about now was not whether Guosheng would do something bad to him, but whether Guosheng could kill Zhao Feiyu. Or to seriously injure Zhao Feiyu. After all, Zhao Feiyu was also a late-stage immortal king expert. With his strength, he would be killed in less than 3 moves. No, at most, we are evenly matched. Mo Xiao also transmitted a message, and this is based on the premise that Zhao Feiyu has no helpers. But you should know that Mo Qiong, who is behind Zhao Feiyu, is likely to have colluded with the Sky Demon. Once a Sky Demon expert comes, all of us will die. Hiss. Hearing that, Ningyu gasped. Mo Xiao was right. Zhao Feiyu might be a small fry, and the real expert should be with Mo Qiong. If only I could improve my cultivation a little more. Ning Yu's expression became extremely solemn. Ever since he entered the immortal court, he was eager to improve his strength. However, his cultivation had already reached the 5th stage half-step Immortal King, and his strength could also compete with a peak middle stage Immortal King expert. If he wanted to improve his strength, it would be very difficult for him to make a breakthrough unless he improved his cultivation to the real Immortal King realm. Of course, it was difficult to make a breakthrough, but it didn't mean it was impossible. Now, his war god body had reached the transformation stage, and he had already completed 1/10 of the blood transformation. As long as he could complete the transformation of the remaining 9/10, his strength would skyrocket to a terrifying level. By then, with his 5th stage half-step Immortal King cultivation, he might be able to compete with a late-stage Immortal King expert, and even kill one. Ning Yu, the Lich King, is an ancient demonic beast, and his blood is extremely special. At this moment, the voice of the Red Devil suddenly rang in Ning Yu's ears. Ancient demonic beast. Ning Yu was slightly startled, and then he said, "What's going on?" The Lich King was a peak middle stage Immortal King expert, and it took Ning Yu quite a bit of effort to kill him. After killing the Lich King, Ning Yu left the Lich King for the Red Devil Sword to devour. He wanted the Red Devil Sword to advance to the late-stage Immortal King realm as soon as possible. Now that the Red Devil Sword said that the Lich King's blood was special, could it be? Thinking of this, Ning Yu's heart moved. If the Lich King's blood could really be ranked in the top of the myriad heavens and realms physique ranking, then he might really be able to successfully cultivate the transformation stage by devouring it. Give me the blood. Ning Yu was not an indecisive person. He immediately said to the Red Devil, "Protect me, and try not to let others disturb me." Kai Kai. The Red Devil controlled the Lich King's blood and sent it into Ning Yu's body through the Red Devil Sword. Rank 90 in the myriad heavens and realms physique ranking. As soon as he received the Lich King's blood, Ning Yu determined that the Lich King's physique was enough to enter the top 90 of the myriad heavens and realms physique ranking. Moreover, the Lich King's original body was a demonic beast, and his blood was even comparable to the blood of the 85th rank in the myriad heavens and realms physique ranking. Transform. Ning Yu did not waste any time. He immediately activated his spell and began to devour the Lich King's blood. Bang! Time passed very slowly. Guo Sheng and Zhao Feiyu were confronting each other, while Mo Xiao stood at the side, paying close attention to their movements. Chapter 2446. Chapter 2446. Chapter 2446. Bloodslave Warrior. Bang! 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 Everything seemed to be calm, but in fact, undercurrents were surging. 3 minutes passed. Ning Yu refined all the blood of the Lich King. After refining the blood of the Lich King, the blood of Ning Yu's God of War body completed another 40% transformation. In other words, currently, Ning Yu's body of the War God's bloodline had reached 5/10 of the transformation stage. He only needed to devour some blood of special constitutions to reach the 3rd level, the body strengthening level. However, even if he didn't reach the body strengthening level, Ning Yu's strength had improved greatly. Just now, he could only run away from a late-stage Immortal King powerhouse. He didn't even have the chance to escape. But now, if he faced a late-stage Immortal King powerhouse again, he would be able to deal with it easily and even slightly resist. Not enough. Ning Yu knew that this was not enough, far from enough. He had to improve his strength again to the point where he could kill late-stage Immortal King powerhouses. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to break out of today's trap. Mo Xiao. Ning Yu's eyes fell on Mo Xiao. Waving his hand at Mo Xiao, Ning Yu said, "Do you know the list of all heavens and worlds physique?" Huh. Hearing Ning Yu's question, Mo Xiao was slightly startled, then said, "I know the list of all heavens and worlds physique. The Emperor of Dragon War Empire, my father, is ranked 70th on the list of all heavens and worlds physique." All right. Ning Yu was very helpless. Mo Xiao's words meant that he didn't have the blood of the top physique of all heavens and worlds physique. The plan to get blood from Mo Xiao was ruined. Boom. All of a sudden, Guo Sheng's figure flashed, and he started a battle with Zhao Feiyu. Both of them were peerless late-stage immortal king powerhouses. How powerful would the aftermath of their battle be? It was just a hasty exchange of blows, but the surrounding void cracked and countless houses collapsed. Battle in the void, Guosheng growled, then leaped into the air and rushed into the void. You think I'm afraid of you? Not to be outdone, Zhao Feiyu followed closely behind. Rumble. The battle between Zhao Feiyu and Guosheng caused the void to shatter and the sky to darken. Because the difference in their strength was not too great, it was difficult to determine the victor of their battle in a short period of time. Creak. Not long after, King Pingling, who had entered the inner hall of the teleportation pavilion, walked straight out. Beside King Pingling was a middle-aged man in a green robe. Sky Demon? The moment he saw the man in green, Ningyu's pupils shrank. There was no other reason. He determined that the green-robed man was not a human, but a heavenly demon. Humph. Why aren't you kneeling when you see Lord Battle General? Apparently, King Pingling did not know that the Lich King had been killed. He harumphed coldly and said, "The green-robed Battle General is one of the 9 great battle generals under the command of Blood Sky Battle Emperor. His cultivation base has reached the peak of intermediate Immortal King Realm, only half a step away from the true advanced Immortal King Realm. How dare you not kneel down when you see him? Looks like I have to teach you a lesson." Whoosh. After that, in order to show off in front of the green-robed Battle General, King Pingling rushed out on the spot, turned his right fist into a claw, and grabbed at Ningyu's head. Speak of the devil. Ningyu did not pay attention to King Pingling. His eyes were fixed on the green-robed Battle General. Although the body constitution of the green-robed Battle General was not ranked in the top 100 in the list of body constitutions in the universe, due to his special identity as a sky demon, his body constitution was stronger than the top 100 in the universe. After all, the list of body constitutions did not include sky demons. How dare you? King Pingling was furious. He sped up again, trying to grab Ningyu's head. Noisy. It was not until King Pingling came in front of him that Ningyu clenched his right fist and threw it out. Crack. Ah. 2 sounds rang out in succession. The first was the sound of King Pingling's fist breaking. The second was the scream of King Pingling. "I'm going to tear you into pieces." King Pingling let out a furious roar. Die. Ningyu did not want King Pingling to waste his time here. He took out the red demon sword and stabbed it at King Pingling's heart. Puff. In an instant, the red demon sword pierced through King Pingling's heart. You. King Pingling looked down at the flying sword in his heart, then pointed at Ningyu. He wanted to say something, but before he could finish his words, he fell backward and died on the spot. Swish. Ningyu would not waste the energy in King Pingling's body. He waved his hand and sucked King Pingling into the red demon sword, so that Ninglu and the others could devour it. In recent times, Ningyu had already killed a few Immortal King experts and an unknown number of half-step Immortal King experts. Inside the red demon sword, Ninglu, Shueyu Fairy, the Dark Emperor, and even his parents were quickly devouring the energy to cultivate. Now, except for Ningyu's parents, the others had all improved their cultivation to the Lord of Heaven realm. Among them, Ninglu and the Dark Emperor had improved the fastest. They had reached the late stage of Lord of Heaven and were not far from the peak of Lord of Heaven. If they were given some time, they might even break through to the Immortal King realm. Human, you're very strong. Be my slave. The death of King Pingling did not change the expression of the green-robed general. On the contrary. The green-robed general stared at Ningyu with interest and said, "I'm one of the 9 generals under the command of the Blood Sky War Emperor. I command hundreds of millions of celestial demons. As long as you surrender to me, I can give you an army of celestial demons and let you conquer the world. I'd like to know to what extent my strength will improve after devouring your blood." Ningyu licked his lips and said, "If I were you, I would surrender obediently, so as not to suffer some unnecessary pain." Ha ha ha. The green-robed general seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first looked up and laughed wildly, then changed the topic and said coldly, "Do you think I'm no match for you because I've been seriously injured? I have to say that you're a little naive. Even if my cultivation has dropped to the middle stage immortal king realm, it's still easy for me to kill you. Drop. Ning Yu did not underestimate the enemy at all. Hearing this, he immediately used his perception and began to carefully observe the green-robed general. I'm a celestial demon. Ning Yu cursed when he saw it. Misjudgment. It was indeed a misjudgment. The cultivation of the green-robed general was not at the middle stage immortal king realm, but at the late stage immortal king realm. Due to some reasons, his cultivation had dropped to the middle stage immortal king realm. But even so, the strength that the green-robed general could exert was comparable to some humans at the late stage immortal king realm. It was no exaggeration. Even some human experts who had just reached the late stage immortal king realm might not be able to win against the green-robed general. What do you think? Do you want to consider surrendering to me and being my slave? The green-robed general was very satisfied with Ning Yu's reaction. Chapter 2447. Chapter 2447. Chapter 2447. Physique strengthening level. In that case, shouldn't I thank you? Ning Yu's lips curled up. Tell me, how should I thank you? No need to thank me, as long as you open your mind and surrender. The green-robed general waved his hand. Humph. Ning Yu snorted coldly, turned into a shadow, and immediately rushed out. The green-robed general was seriously injured, and his combat power was less than half of his peak. Now was the best time to kill the green-robed general. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no more. Ning Yu's war god body's blood had already completed half of the transformation level. He only needed to devour the green-robed general's blood to complete the final transformation and completely reach the physique strengthening level. The physique strengthening level, as the name suggested, could strengthen the physique of the war god body. At this time, Ning Yu's physical strength was comparable to a mid-stage immortal king martial artist. If he could reach the physique strengthening level, then his physical strength could even be comparable to a late-stage immortal king powerhouse. At that time, with his fifth-stage half-step immortal king cultivation, it was not difficult to kill a late-stage immortal king martial artist. Courting death. Seeing Ning Yu rushing towards him, the green-robed general snorted coldly, clenched his right hand into a fist, and directly punched out. Bang! In an instant, Ning Yu's fist collided with the green-robed general's fist. Swish! Swish! After one move, Ning Yu and the green-robed general retreated several feet at the same time. Obviously, in this short confrontation, whether it was Ning Yu or the green-robed general, neither gained the upper hand. Interesting. The green-robed general looked coldly at Ning Yu, and said sinisterly, with a fifth-stage half-step immortal king cultivation, you can actually take a punch with 30% of my strength. I have to say, your strength is indeed very strong. You're not bad yourself, you can take a punch with 10% of my strength. Ning Yu also shrugged, and said, I originally thought that an attack with 10% of my strength would be able to blast you into pieces. Who would have thought that you have some ability? I'm going to tear you to pieces. The green-robed general was furious to the extreme. Ever since he entered the immortal court, he had never suffered such humiliation. However, despite his anger, the green-robed general did not lose his rationality. He took a deep breath, flicked his wrist, and summoned a flying sword. The flying sword wasn't too long, but there were hundreds of skulls engraved on its blade. Skeleton killing sword. The green-robed general's flying sword was called the Killing Skeleton Sword, and it was a late-stage immortal king. Because of your stupidity, everyone here today must die. The green-robed warrior gently stroked the skeleton sword as if he was caressing a lover. Even though the Killing Skull Sword was only at the late immortal king stage, it was very special. To be precise, the Killing Skull Sword was similar to Ning Yu's Red Demon Sword. Both of them could devour other flying swords to strengthen themselves and raise their level. Otherwise, how could a peerless heavenly demon like the green-robed general only use a flying sword of the late immortal king realm? Arrogant heavenly demons always have short lives. Ning Yu cracked his neck, then summoned the red demon sword, and said indifferently, if you were at your peak, I would naturally retreat. But unfortunately, you are not at your peak, so I have no choice but to kill you. Die. Hearing Ning Yu's nonchalant words, the green-robed general, who was originally very calm, suddenly exploded. Wielding the killing skeleton sword, the green-robed general's toes touched the ground, and he instantly arrived in front of Ning Yu. Kai Kai. The energy on the killing skeleton sword made a hissing sound as it slashed towards Ning Yu's neck. The green-robed general wanted to directly cut off Ning Yu's head with this attack. However, how could Ning Yu just watch as the killing skeleton sword slashed towards his neck? He immediately retreated with both feet on the ground. Swoosh! The killing skull sword missed its target and tore a hole in the void. Let's fight in the sky. Ning Yu's figure flashed, and he directly flew into the air. If he was the slightest bit careless when fighting in Cloudy Mang City, the entire city would be reduced to ashes. Although Ning Yu was no saint, he did not want to destroy Cloudy Mang City. You think I'm afraid of you? The green-robed general leaped up and chased after Ning Yu. I wonder if Ning Yu can win. Watching Ning Yu and the green-robed general fight in the void, Lin Lang, who was in the teleportation pavilion, had a worried look on his face. Ning Yu was the main force entering the soaring sky celestial kingdom's mystic realm. If anything happened to him, then this trip to the mystic realm was destined to end in failure. Don't worry. Lin Lang's cultivation was relatively low, and he could not determine who would win between Ning Yu and the green-robed general. However, Xiao Duanya was very clear. Just now, for some reason, Ning Yu's strength had more than doubled. Under such circumstances, if Ning Yu went to deal with the injured green-robed general, his chances of winning were extremely high. Should we inform Song Shihao and say that there are heavenly demons infiltrating Cloudy Mang City? Lin Lang hesitated for a moment and asked. No need. Xiao Duanya glanced at Mo Xiao, then shook his head and said, I believe that the internal affairs of the Dragon War Empire can be resolved by themselves. Don't worry, Elder Guo is very powerful. After he kills Zhao Feiyu, he will immediately join forces with Ning Yu to encircle and annihilate the green-robed general. Mo Xiao knew what Xiao Duanya meant and said in a low voice. Bang! At this moment, a figure descended from the 9 heavens and landed heavily on the ground. Hiss! Seeing the figure descending, Yang Yuming, Lin Lang, and the others all sucked in a breath of cold air. This figure was none other than the arrogant green-robed general. However, at this moment, the green-robed general had already become a piece of human skin. Even his bones had disappeared. Swoosh! Not long after the green-robed general landed, Ning Yu returned the way he came and landed in front of Yang Yuming and the rest. Very good. Feeling the changes in the blood in his body, Ning Yu nodded with satisfaction. The green-robed general's strength was much weaker than he had imagined. The confrontation between the red demon sword and the killing skeleton sword was more like a fated battle. Not long after, the killing skeleton sword was completely devoured by the red demon sword. After devouring the killing skeleton sword, the level of the red demon sword directly soared to the peak of the late-stage immortal king realm, completing the process from quantitative to qualitative change. Furthermore, Ning Yu could basically confirm that if the red demon sword devoured another peak immortal king realm flying sword, its level would definitely reach the peak of the immortal king realm. Of course, the most important thing was not that the red demon sword had advanced to the peak of the late-stage immortal king realm, but that Ning Yu discovered that the blood of the god of war body had completed the transformation level and had soared to the physique strengthening level. Although he had just reached the physique strengthening level, Ning Yu was very clear that the strength of his body was already comparable to some martial artists at the peak of the immortal king realm. And this was completely beyond Ning Yu's expectations. After all, Ning Yu had previously guessed that he needed to reach the peak of the physique strengthening level in order to strengthen his body to the level of a peak immortal king realm. But now, just by reaching the early stage of the physique strengthening level, his body was already comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the immortal king realm. One could imagine. Chapter 2448. Chapter 2448. Chapter 2448. The blue-robed general now, I can easily deal with a late-stage immortal king. Ning Yu thought to himself. Ning Yu might not be able to deal with some veteran late-stage immortal kings. However, He could deal with those weak late-stage immortal kings calmly and even kill them with ease. Zhao Feiyu's strength is not too strong among late-stage immortal kings. Ningyu put away the red demon sword and looked at the void battlefield. There. Zhao Feiyu and Guosheng were fighting. Both sides had used all kinds of trump cards, and the sky was dark and the space was collapsing. Oh no. Suddenly, Ningyu's expression changed. There was no other reason. He found that an old man in blue had appeared in the void. The blue-robed old man was slightly stronger than Zhao Feiyu. What worried Ningyu the most was that the blue-robed old man was not Guosheng's helper, but Zhao Feiyu's helper. Fut fut fut. The blue-robed old man and Zhao Feiyu had joined forces and forced Guosheng to retreat, spurting blood. If the situation continued like this, in 3 minutes at most, Guosheng would be defeated or even killed. Do you need help? Ningyu frowned slightly, secretly thinking of countermeasures. Strictly speaking, he did not want to help Guosheng. After all, Guosheng had threatened him. Therefore, he was measuring the difference in strength between him and Zhao Feiyu and the blue-robed old man. Under the premise of a head-on fight, Zhao Feiyu and the blue-robed old man were no match for him. However, if the blue-robed old man and Zhao Feiyu joined forces, there was a 50% chance that they could kill him. At this time, helping Guosheng might be the best choice. Wait a little longer. Ningyu had already made up his mind, but he still did not act rashly. Even if he wanted to help Guosheng, Guosheng had to personally ask for it and pay a price. Otherwise, he would immediately leave with Lin Lang and Yang Yuming and flee far away. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ningyu would not choose this method. Because once he left, it meant that he had given up on the mystical land of the Soaring Sky Celestial Kingdom. After all, in order to reach the Soaring Sky Immortal Empire, one had to use a teleportation array. And in this region, only the Cloudmang City had a large-scale teleportation array that could teleport to the Soaring Sky Immortal Empire. Rumble. The battle continued. With the addition of the blue-clothed old man, Guosheng was forced to retreat again and again, and was almost killed several times. Inside the teleportation pavilion, Mo Xiao's heart leaped to his throat. He was well aware of Guosheng's strength. In a normal fight, Zhao Feiyu could be slowly ground to death. This was because Guosheng had a pill with him that could instantly replenish his immortal qi. Taking one would be able to instantly replenish all the immortal qi he had used up. Hang in there. Mo Xiao clenched his fists and used his secret technique to observe the battle situation. Mo Xiao knew better than anyone else. Guosheng could not lose. As long as Guosheng lost, he would definitely fall into Zhao Feiyu's hands. Falling into Zhao Feiyu's hands was no different from falling into Mo Qiong's hands. Perhaps, Ningyu can help. After secretly observing the battle situation for a while, Mo Xiao could not help but think of Ningyu. Ningyu was able to kill the green-robed general in an instant, which was enough to show his strength. There was no guarantee. If Ningyu took action, he could help Guosheng. At the very least, he could reduce the pressure on Guosheng. But Mo Xiao was also worried. Not long ago, Guosheng's attitude towards Ningyu was not very good. Who knew if Ningyu was willing to help or not? It would be fine if he was willing to help, but if he was not willing to help, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Fight. Gritting his teeth, Mo Xiao went straight to Ningyu's side and said, Ningyu, as long as you are willing to help Elder Guo, after we successfully escape, I will recommend you to be the state preceptor of the Dragon War Empire. Ningyu glanced at Mo Xiao and said indifferently, your life is in my hands, what qualifications do you have to negotiate with me? This, Mo Xiao was speechless. Ningyu was right. Even his life was controlled by Ningyu. What qualifications did he have to negotiate with Ningyu? Now if Ningyu wanted him to live, he would live. If Ningyu wanted him to die, he would die without a doubt. I have the Dragon War token, I can order Elder Guo to do everything. Mo Xiao's eyes changed, and he said in a deep voice, if you help Elder Guo escape, I can ask Elder Guo to do 3 things for you. There is no need for that. Ningyu waved his hand and said. His strength was already much stronger than Guosheng's. He didn't need Guosheng to help him do things for the time being. Pucci. At this moment. In the void, Guosheng was careless and was hit in the chest by Zhao Feiyu. His body fell straight toward the ground. Crack! His body hit the ground. A crisp sound rang out. Several bones in Guosheng's body were broken on the spot. Swish! Swish! After defeating Guosheng, the old man in blue and Zhao Feiyu landed steadily in the teleportation pavilion. Obviously, they joined forces to defeat Guosheng and consumed a lot of energy. Blue-robed general, fortunately you came fast enough. Otherwise, I might have been killed by this guy. Zhao Feiyu took a breath and said to the old man in blue next to him, now that Guosheng is killed, young master can nibble away at the forces of the third prince, and thus complete the control of the Dragon War Empire. Where is the green-robed general? The old man in blue, who was also the blue-robed general, asked without much change in expression. This isn't. Zhao Feiyu turned around and wanted to speak, but when he opened his mouth, he found that there was no figure of the green-robed general in the entire teleportation pavilion. I'm sorry. Ningyu took a step forward and said indifferently, the green-robed general is there. Hearing Ningyu's words, Zhao Feiyu and the blue-robed general turned their eyes to the place where Ningyu's finger was pointing. Hiss. With this look. Both of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Where was the green-robed general? On the ground, it was clearly a piece of human skin. You killed the green-robed general. The blue-robed general's eyes narrowed as he stared at Ningyu. If this is your so-called green-robed general, then it was indeed me who killed him. As Ningyu said this, he quietly injected energy into the red demon sword, preparing to make a sudden attack. In fact, Ningyu used the green-robed general to provoke the blue-robed general in order to make him fall into a trance. In this way, Ningyu had absolute confidence that he could instantly kill the blue-robed general. Very good, very good. The blue-robed general took a deep breath, looked coldly at Ningyu, and said, you have completely infuriated me. Although I do not know why you have infuriated me, I can clearly tell you that all those who infuriate me must die. The word die fell. The blue-robed general instantly moved, rushing towards Ningyu. It could be seen. The blue-robed general was furious to the extreme. The purpose of his trip to the Cloud Mang Immortal Kingdom this time was to rescue the green-robed general and bring him back to recuperate. But now, the green-robed general had been killed by Ningyu. How could he not be angry? Let me do it. Zhao Feiyu was even more furious than the blue-robed general. He rushed out before the blue-robed general, rushing towards Ningyu. All right. The blue-robed general could not see through Ningyu. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.